Okay, so we'll call this meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please rise and join me. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, and that brings us to community comments. Are there any?
No community comments this morning.
No community comments. Thank you very much. And that then takes us to the agenda item. I'd first like to say congratulations to Daniel Flores and Nathan Bristol. So happy to have you with us. And then do we have, is it Dr. Hovey or Mr.
Yes,
Hovey?
Dr. Hovey.
Dr. Hovey, yes. And Dr. Bray as well?
No, just Mr. Bray.
Mr. Bray, very good.
Although he has enough experience, we could call him Doctor. I mean, he's highly esteemed.
Wonderful. Well, we are pleased to have you here, and I will look to Dr. Holman to introduce you.
Oh, thanks so very much, President Behringer. Welcome really to everyone, who are with us right here on the screen. I so appreciate all of you being part of what I believe will be really a great experience. The intent of today is a new board member orientation. We're, breaking some ground here. We've never done it this way, but I'll tell you, I'm thrilled to be able to do so because, to be quite frank, I have just been honored to be part of this district for, counted as a student and, 30 plus years here, but most importantly, because of the people I get to work with. And while our experiences with new board members, we've always tried to lift them up as best we can. We're really getting some experts here today to get who we get to work with, and I'll introduce them here, who will be able to take us through a process for our two new board members that I believe will really set the foundation for immediately wonderful work as a team of board members who have just been doing super things and just achieving great outcomes thus far. So really appreciative of this opportunity. And you said it very well, President Behringer. We have to say, first of all, congratulations to Daniel Flores, Area 2, who is, won that election. And same thing for right next to him on my screen is Nathan Bristol, who won the election out in Area 5. Two wonderful community members who are now going to become leaders in this community. And really, thank you for persevering through the election process. That was not the shortest one that I've ever seen, but all of you persevered through that beyond election day and certainly earned the trust of the community by virtue of them voting you into the positions that you're at. And so, we got to thinking as a team here. So if we're new board members, how can we lift yourselves up, as I mentioned earlier? And we felt like we could do that best with Mitch Hovey and Dick Bray. I'll start with Mitch Hovey. Dr. Hovey has been just a wonderful educator for numerous years. I'm going to say most recently his jobs were superintendent of Yucaipa Joint Unified, Yucaipa-Calamasa, Joint Unified School District, as well as he was the superintendent in Fullerton for that school district. And he has then since retired I guess I'd say, in a semi role. He's retired to then come back and work for San Bernardino County Superintendent Schools and Ted Alejandre. He's a friend of our district. We all know him very well, everyone who's part of this meeting. And he is nothing but about support. And so he chooses the best to support districts. And Mitch is one of those. And so Mitch, welcome aboard. It's so great to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
You're certainly welcome. And then your colleague, right, Dick Bray. Many of you might know that name. Dick Bray is a local educational legend, dare I say, and legend in a wonderful way, right? He has served Hesperia as a superintendent quite well. And so what an extra bonus we have having Dick Bray here because of that experience. He also has experience in the Orange County. He was a superintendent in Tustin. And just like Mitch, chosen by Ted Alejandre, who in my opinion is very discriminating about support because he is absolutely about support. And Mitch and Dick meet that criteria very well. And so we've been just really thrilled to have you here too, Dick. Welcome aboard and hello. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
You're certainly welcome. And so really, they are going to carry the large majority of this work. I'll be part of it too, and trying to facilitate for you, Daniel, and for you, Nathan, really this notion of trying to just get you to a position where you feel a bit more ready for December 15th, a bit more ready for the next 4 years, truly. And so I think we've done, I think, a pretty good job in the past, but I think this is a whole next level for us. And it's a next level, not because of me, but because of these two gentlemen here. And they're going to really take us through that experience. And so before I turn it over to them, again, thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Daniel, for making the time today. It should be about a 3-hour journey that by the end, I think the outcome will be, okay, I now feel better about what I've gotten myself into, right? You've gotten yourself into this for the right reasons. You want to support this community and ultimately our kids. And I think you're going to be much more better prepared than you were when you walked right in here today because of these two gentlemen. So without further ado, Mitch, may I turn over to you and you can start working your magic between you and Dick and these two wonderful individuals here who are our new board members?
Happy to do so. I'm going to need to have you share the screen so I can pull up the PowerPoint and the agenda.
Absolutely. Alan, Alan Miller, and we'll go through introductions in a moment. He's one of our assistant superintendents there, Mitch. Alan, are you okay and comfortable putting that PowerPoint up there? Thanks, Alan. Yeah, he sure will do that for you, Mitch.
Well, are you going to put the PowerPoint up, Ryan, or am I going to put it on, have it from my screen?
Oh, I'm sorry there, Mitch. I thought you wanted us to do it. Yeah. Do you want to do it? You can certainly do it, Mitch. My apologies.
If that's okay, because I'm going to have to go to the agenda and then come back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah. So, you tell us what's easiest there, Mitch, what you would prefer. I thought you had said you wanted to do it, but we'll do it either way.
If you could share it if you could give me the host privileges or co-host privileges so that I can pull it up.
Yeah, Mitch, this is what you'll have to do.
Okay.
Do you have two screens, dual screens?
No, I only have the one screen.
Okay, you can go ahead and go down to that bottom bar, like I said.
Yes.
And then go all the way to almost all the way to your right. You'll see a present now.
Yes.
And then it'll show your screen probably in the middle of your screen, and then you'll just click on that screen, and it should present for you.
Okay, let me see how it goes here.
Okay.
So let me get to, now you'll have to let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay. And then also I have the agenda. Let me just see, I've got two different things. Can you see the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just start with that, if I may. Basically, this workshop, we're going to do our best to get through a lot of stuff today, but we don't want to hinder you from being able to at least interact with us and ask questions if you need to, because the purpose of today's workshop is just to provide some foundation, as Ryan said. Give us an opportunity to share a little bit about our backgrounds, and as a reminder, I know you're all here for the same reasons, is that we represent all children. I think sometimes we forget about that sometimes, and that's something that we need to be reminded of, is that we represent all students, no matter what region, no matter where we're at, we're here for all kids. It's an opportunity for us to work together and accomplish and achieve our legacies, an opportunity to capitalize on the synergy, the energy that you all bring. And gee, just from this morning, I just already feel a great energy from each of you. So what we're attempting to do is to lay the foundation to pull that energy together so that we capitalize on the synergy by all rowing in the same direction. And it's also an opportunity to have fun and grow together as a team. We're going to take the first part of today and give you an opportunity to share about your backgrounds, basically to address a couple of questions. What is it that you bring to the table? Share a little bit about your background, and also to share with us a little bit about what you'd like your legacy to be. What are you about, and what would you like to accomplish over the next 4 years? And you'll have an opportunity, and we're going to try to do that in just about 2 minutes each, because we do have a lot to cover, but we thought it would be important to give each of you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourselves, because we all bring diverse backgrounds. We all bring different experiences, and that's what makes us such a powerful team, to be able to bring all that together into one area and work together. Once we have done that, we're going to go into Dick and I are going to talk about the foundations for effective governance. We're going to do, then that's in number 2, where we talk about the human factor, the leadership factor, building the culture of trust, and the importance of collaborative working relationships. We're going to then address under effective governance principles and procedural guidelines that deals with the powers of the board, powers of the superintendent, the role of the board, which, as you know, is a governing board. You're responsible for the governance of the district. Then the role of the superintendent, which is responsible for the management, the administration, and the leadership. We're going to talk a little bit about governance versus management. We're going to identify and talk about 3 essential roles, sort of illustrate the roles, talk about board meeting structure, decision-making process, and the importance of common courtesy and communication. And then we're going to ask Ryan to share a little bit about how he prepares and reviews board meetings in preparation. And just as a reminder that as an individual, none of us are powerful, but when you come together as a board, that's when you become a team. So you're not really a board until you meet as a collective board. And then Ryan's going to quickly go over the agenda for this next week, December the 15th. And Ryan, I think you said it well, in that, you want to prepare, you want to give your 2 new board members particularly, you want them to go into the first meeting strong, feeling good and well prepared. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Brown Act, sort of a quick overview. And we did provide an Orange County Department of Ed handbook for your reference. And I think, Ryan, you have that, and I know you'll make that available. But we figured you can read that at your leisure. But the purpose today is just to highlight some of the key things about the Brown Act. And then I know Ryan and I talked a little bit about just highlighting and just taking a peek at the governance handbook, which we're going to do more work on in the spring, and then briefly talk about the overview of the superintendent evaluation process. So as you can see, we have a lot on the agenda, and we're going to do our best to get through it, but not rush so much that you don't come away with feeling good about what we've done today. So with that being said, I'm going to go to our PowerPoint. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I've already gone through basically this is, again, a reminder that we represent all children and we're here to support and work together. Opportunity to reflect upon and share your legacy. And then providing and capitalizing on synergy. And then I've already gone through the agenda overview. So with that being said, sharing in introductions, we'd like for you to think about who are we and what do we bring to the table? And what is the legacy you would like to leave and what you would like to accomplish over the next 4 years? And we've got a big group, so we'd like each of you to sort of summarize as best you can within about 2 minutes. And I'll start by sharing, and Ryan's already done a very nice job of introducing us and helping us to move forward. But I started in education in 1972 as a PE teacher and coach while attending USC. After graduating, I taught in East LA for a year. And that's what sort of taught me that, hey, I want to go into education. I want to work with students. I went on to complete my teaching credential, a master's degree, total of 8 years teaching in a private school, got my doctorate degree in 1999, taught 32 years in public school education, and I had an opportunity to be an English as a second language teacher and a coach at Pomona High School. I was in elementary, middle school, junior high school in a couple different districts for a total of 17 years. District office opportunities for 15 years. I served as a director and assistant superintendent, as Ryan said, in Yucaipa, Calamasa, and in Fullerton Elementary School District. I also had an opportunity once I retired from Fullerton to be a university professor at Cal Baptist University in the Online Professional Studies Division, Education Department for 8 years. And talk about a learning curve. I learned how to provide online education, which is something that I had no experience in. So I learned a tremendous amount about online education working at Cal Baptist, and then decided at the invitation of Ted Alejandre, our county superintendent, who we had the opportunity to work together in Yucaipa. We worked together at the executive cabinet level. So he had asked me to join Kagam Tashjian, who you may know. He was a board member in Upland Unified School District, and he was also assistant soup at the county office. And then to work with Dick Bray and Ralph Baker, who I know you're familiar with Ralph Baker, who I should say it's a privilege to and an honor to follow and pick up from where he left off, because I know he's already done great work with you. So basically, with that being said, I'm in my 5th year working with the county, and Dick's working together with me, and we're pleased to be here. And that's a little bit about me. So, Dick.
Thank you. Yes, well, I started even earlier. I started in 1968, and I was a science and math teacher, and I was a science math teacher because I had a great science and math teacher in high school. And I thought, wow, I want to be like him. And so taught science and math, then became a vice principal, and eventually 14 years as a principal. I spent a couple of years in the district office overseeing curriculum and instruction. And then the rest of my time, I've been a superintendent. 12 years in Hesperia, and then the balance of my 19 years as a superintendent in Tustin Unified, large district in Orange County, and just had great experiences both places, and retired. I've been working for the county for the last 10 years since I retired, and really enjoyed it. I was also adjunct professor and for Azusa Pacific, and also Chapman University. I taught school law for 20 years, and really enjoyed that. And boy, I sure feel for you guys going through trying to deal with COVID, and bless your hearts. You're just doing a great job, and wow, whoever, you never prepare for something like this. This is just amazing, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Ryan, do you want to go next, and then maybe just go around the room and have you ask each of your board members and your executive CAP members to share a little bit?
Sure, Mitch, I'd love to. Gosh, again, good morning, everyone. My journey is really focused around Snowline so very much. Graduated from the Snowline School District 1985. Proud to say that Alan Miller, you'll hear from him in a moment. We were friends back in the day there. And so went away, UC San Diego, got my degree in economics. More importantly, got a wife down there in that North County of San Diego, right? The better half there, my wife is a teacher in the Snowline School District. Our 3 kids have gone through our district. And I started as a financial advisor, sold stocks, bonds, and just wasn't rewarding, for me. And I got into education. My parents were, and like you, Dick, wanted to be a math teacher. And with apologies to Robert Chacon, you'll hear from him in a moment, and Nancy's a daughter, right? And Daniel's sister, who all were subjected to me as a teacher at Penn and Mason Middle School here in Snowline. They've all survived, and I'm proud that they have survived me as a teacher. But I spent 3 years there with Denner Zimmerman. We were teachers together, and thrilled to do that. And then became an assistant principal there, principal at Phelan Elementary School for 6 years, principal at Vista Verde Elementary School for 3 years, and had been at the district office for 12. And just absolutely honored to be part of this community. I feel like I've given just the smallest amount back to this community from which I took. I took so very much. And Mitch, did you want me to talk about legacy or not yet?
Yes, if you would, go ahead and just address both. Yeah. I neglected to do that, but in my example, so not a very good example, but go ahead and share your legacy, and we'll ask everybody else to do the same thing.
Thanks, Mitch. I would just say real quickly, kind of a rational legacy, and then an experiential one. The rational legacy I want for this, learning community, and particularly our students, is that they come away with just what our mission statement says, that they have the capacity to say, I have endless possibilities as a result of this experience that was a high level of learning that now has put me in a position to do whatever I so choose and contribute to society in the most greatest of ways. Now, that's the rational one. The experiential one, I'll just say real quickly, is that when they look back on their experience at Snowline, it might bring a tear to their eyes. It might bring, the warming of the heart, but they say, I know that I mattered to that district. And as a result, I have the capacity to do what I just said rationally. And so that's the legacy that I want to leave here in some way, shape, form. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to go to the president, and that's President Christina Behringer, and we'll go from there. Is that okay, Mitch?
That's great. Wonderful. Go ahead. Thank you, Christina.
Good morning. So I have been involved in education in one way or another all my life, of course, beginning with my early years. And then as I had children, I homeschooled them, at which point I was recruited to run for school board in my local district at the time, and served there for 4 years before coming up to Snowline, where I began serving in 2014. And this is just the best district. I have enjoyed it thoroughly, and you guys are going to as well. So in thinking about what legacy I would like to leave is having the kids know that they were cared for and that they received the best possible education and that they're well prepared for whatever endeavor they choose to pursue in their careers and further education. And also importantly is for the teachers and the staff to know that they are well cared for, they have a voice, they're active participants in this process, and they are what makes this work. So I thoroughly am out to serve all of our stakeholders. And when you mentioned about them being all of our children, they absolutely are. I'm here in Brightwood, but all of the Snowline students are my students.
Great.
So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina, thanks so much. How about our clerk, Marcus Hernandez? Good morning again, Marcus.
Good morning, sir. Well, my background is not in education. I know so many of our folks have come that route into the school board and share that past knowledge and inner working of schools. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've been doing that for over 20 years. And my motivation came from my children wanting to be a part of the process and the decisions that I know will impact their lives forever. And in realizing that, how it impacts everybody. This is my first term, 2 years in, and what motivated me then is kind of changed to what motivates me now. What I want to leave here is and we've spoken a little bit of it, the evolution of education. I want Snowline to continue to be the best district up here, and really I want it to be the best everywhere. But in light of recent events, what can we as a district do to evolve what education is? We have the career pathways, and that's an excellent start. But there's so much more that we can do. And if I could be a part of that, if I can have a hand in setting that direction and knowing that, for ages to come, that, what we have decided here will continue to impact everybody, man, that would just be incredibly fulfilling. So that's my motivation. That's what I hope to leave behind here in Snowline.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Marcus. We'll leave if you don't mind, our guests of honor here, so to speak, to the end and go to the administration here. Dennis Zimmerman, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources. Dennis, my friend, do you mind picking up?
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you to everyone who's worked so hard to put today together. I think it's an important day, for all of us together, collaborating, coming together, and looking to the future. Congratulations, Nathan and Daniel, and just very excited to join our team. So I think just a little bit of who I am. I started out as a high school and middle school chemistry and then middle school science teacher, coaching baseball and basketball. Spent some time in Santa Barbara and Ventura doing that for a little while. And then my wife and I moved our family this way to Snowline. Just Snowline came calling, and my wife was looking for an opportunity to stay home instead of doing the medical assisting nursing that she was doing at that point in time. And now we've been here. This is our 30th year in this community, 30th year in Snowline as a teacher and as a servant leader, and just love it. In the midst of that, I had some great opportunities that came my way to be an adjunct at Cal State San Bernardino and Redlands in their teacher credential program and in their administrative credential program. So that really helped form me in a lot of good ways. I'm a father, and my wife and I've had two kids graduate from Snowline. We're just as thankful as can be the education that they received. One of them kindergarten through 12th grade. The other one I think was second grade when he started here through 12th grade. And just Snowline did an amazing job to launch them by all of the people that poured into them unselfishly as students growing up, and they still have connects with staff from this district, even though none of them live locally right now, that they still value. I'd say my legacy that I would love to see, that I would love to leave with this district is, maximizing opportunities for students and staff and doing everything I can to provide the means necessary for that to be done.
Great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dennis. And then over to Assistant Superintendent, Student Learning Support Services, Alan Miller. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, everybody. I'll start off by saying I know I look younger than Ryan, but I actually graduated 2 years behind him. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, Serrano High School class of 1983. It was truly a privilege to be part of this district as Snowline was really starting out as a joint unified school district. But attended Wrightwood Elementary School as a younger boy, and then went through Serrano High School in grades 7 through 12. It was a junior-senior high school at the time. I guess my plan going out of high school was to join the military, so I joined the United States Navy that October following graduation. Spent 7 years active duty. Got off of active duty, affiliated with the reserves, spent another 16 years in. So I had 23 years altogether, retired from the Navy in 2006. Started my education journey as a teacher in 1998 here in Snowline at Wrightwood Elementary School, where I was a student. Had a great 7 years there, taught 1 year at the middle school level under Dennis Zimmerman at Quail Valley Middle School. Took a leave of absence, so to speak, really. I was actually hired to be a principal in Victor Elementary School District, where I worked under Dr. Ralph Baker and Dr. Dale Marsden, had some great experience under their leadership. Came back to my home, which is Snowline, in 2011. Took over as principal at Phelan Elementary School. And then Dr. Ryan Holman and his current cabinet at the time gave me the opportunity to enter my current post here as Assistant Superintendent of Student Learning and Support Services. But it's just been a great ride here in Snowline. I've got so much pride and joy, tied into this school district, and plan on keeping this my home through the rest of my educational career. I guess if you talk about my legacy in this school district, I guess there'd be two things involved in that. First of all, that every student that leaves Snowline School District after graduating has a plan, whether it's to join the military, to go directly into the workforce, or go on to post-secondary education. But they've got a clear-cut plan, that may change over time, but they've got a plan when they leave our doors. And then secondly, for those students to leave us with hopefully a servant's heart, going out to serve and give back to their respective communities, or their future communities, wherever they do reside. I think that is so important to have that servant's heart and that level of sacrifice for others. I believe that our country's going through a lot of challenges right now, COVID being the most obvious, but also, some things along the political and social landscape that we can do a lot better in as a country. And I think if we approach it more as servants and just having a heart of giving to our communities, I think we as a country overall will be a lot better off. So that's the legacy I'd like to leave.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alan. And from Alan to our other and third Assistant Superintendent Business Services, Robert Chacon. Can you put our big pot of money down for a moment and speak to the questions here?
It's not real big. It's about this big. So it's not a big pot. That's for sure. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'd just like to put a plug in. Man, these early board meetings, I like them. So just throwing that out there for the group moving forward. So I'm pretty new to education. I am a Serrano graduate, class of 2000. My dad also a Snowline student. Our family's been up here since the early 70s. Really proud to be in this community. I also have two kids at Pinion Hills Elementary, grade 3 and 5. So right out of high school, I did not have a plan, Mr. Miller. So I was kind of going all over the place. Did undergrad at Cal Poly Pomona. Also went through the Fire Academy. I'm an EMT. I was a paid call fireman for San Bernardino County right out of high school. Worked for the Forest Service and BLM. I was on a helicopter. I was on a helishot crew for about 8 years. And then got an opportunity to go to work full-time for Mountain High Ski Resort. So I was their risk manager and ski patrol director for several years. And in 2015, left there and as their vice president of operations and came to Snowline as our risk manager and PIO. So I've been here since 2015. I love this community more than anything, to be quite honest. I love this place. I love that my students are part of the Snowline district. My family, my brother, we're all here in this community. So it's really, really special place for me. As far as my legacy, I always like to tell people in real life, I'm a mountaineer. I'm an alpine climber. I just do this to climb mountains. So as a mountaineer, we kind of have a motto, right? We always want to leave a place better than we found it. So if that means we're picking up an extra piece of trash as we're walking off the trail, or we're providing services, or, we were down in Africa a few years ago. We brought a bunch of solar panels down to that group as we were climbing. So we always want to leave a place better than we found it. And that's kind of my legacy here, whatever that is, whether it's finance, whether it's supporting students with programs, it's doing community outreach and supporting our community. I just want to leave it better than I found it. So thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Robert, for sure. And then from Robert to the Executive Assistant Superintendent, Nancy Stapp. Good morning once again, Nancy. How about yourself, my friend?
Thank you, Ryan. Well, I started in this district in 1992 as a campus monitor at Serrano High School, and then served in a few other positions as a clerk receptionist, a principal secretary at a middle school, principal secretary at the high school, then came to the district office as a credentials analyst, then a secretary to the deputy superintendent, and then here I am in the position of executive assistant to the superintendent. So a total of 28 years for myself. I have 4 adult children who have graduated from the Snowline district, and I currently have 6 grandchildren attending the Snowline School District. and one who just graduated last year and went on to college at Dixie State University, wanting to get into their nursing program. I love what I do, and I would have to say that I work with a great group of people. I could not ask for a better group to work with and a better job. And as far as my legacy goes, I love kids. I love kids. I love kids. I love school. I love education. I love teachers and what they bring to students. And I want to have everybody always remember that my goal here is to help, to support, to assist, and to do whatever I can to help them get through whatever it might be. And I would have to say that in this role, I have the opportunity to do that. I work with administrators. I work with parents who are sometimes happy, sometimes not happy. I work with teachers, and of all the things I miss of being at a site is really the interaction with students on a daily basis. So that being said, I love Snowline, and I am grateful to be here.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nancy. And then last but not least, right, this is the last two are really what this is about, right? We're about the new board members here today. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to begin out there in Area 5, our new representative, Captain Nathan Bristol. You ready, Captain Bristol?
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I got that figured out. All right, yeah. So, anyways, Nathan Bristol. I don't know if you guys, my screen name is wrong. That's just my Google alias character from a movie. That's probably not appropriate, but anyway, I don't know if you guys are probably old enough to know what that movie is, but maybe not. You guys were given timelines. I graduated high school in 1995 out of Lucerne Valley High School. I've been around, so what I know about education. I grew up in the high desert, moving around from school to school. I think I went to 6 different elementary schools, all in Apple Valley and Lucerne Valley area, and then 2 junior highs and 2 high schools. So I moved around all the time and saw a bunch of different means of education. And my connection through, I just love teaching, and I love to see students learn and gain that information that you have to give them. So I teach, but in my own profession to paramedics. I'm an adjunct instructor at Victor Valley College, and but I started out teaching. I guess you call it teaching, but I coached high school football in Lucerne Valley for 2 years or 3 years, just out of high school. They needed some assistance, and I volunteered because that was what I like to do. Anyway, that kind of got my feet wet with instructing, and I always knew I wanted to be a firefighter, so it was kind of an easy career path and career choice for me, just because as a kid, that's what I wanted to do, and I jumped in and went to all the classes and talked to the right people and did all the right things I had to do basically my entire growing up. So as soon as I graduated high school, I had an in with the fire department, and I've basically grown up from 18 to 40 something years old that I am right now in the fire service. It's taught me a lot. Chacon was speaking of some of his interactions with the fire department. So we speak the same kind of language. I could already tell. We have a certain jargon, just like any industry does, and he probably knows a lot of it. My legacy here, given my background and everything, I'm a mission-driven person. So I look at the mission statement, because always you get clouded judgment and mission creep and all kinds of things. There's so many things that can cloud what you're actually here to do. And so I constantly look back at the mission statement and say, you know, what's what's our mission, and what decision or what thing, idea, or choice can I make to accomplish that mission? And
Great.
Boy, thanks so much, Nathan, and just thanks for bringing up that concept.
to do amazing things. That's all I got. You guys will get to know me, I guess.
Sorry, Nathan. I hope I didn't cut you off. It kind of cut out there for a moment. My apologies there. Did I cut you off there, Nathan? My apologies.
No problem at all. I'm done rambling. We got a long day, so let's get this thing going.
Right.
No, not rambling. I'll tell you, I really appreciated your reference to coaching. I never doubt coaching is teaching and teaching is coaching. I'll tell you for sure. So I really appreciated me bringing up those concepts. And then from Area 5 and Captain Nathan Bristow, we go out to Area 2. Last but not least, thanks for your patience, Daniel Flores. Again, welcome aboard, Daniel, just like to Nathan.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was funny. I didn't even think about it until he was talking, but Mr. Zimmerman was my principal for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Heritage School, and graduated Serrano 2002, and went to Victor Valley College for just a little bit, and then moved down to where my parents were from, down to the Norwalk, Santa Fe Springs, Whittier area, and got into construction, started really enjoying that. And, I was one of those people, I think I mentioned it right before we started. I wasn't like a real high achiever academically, like my sisters were. I was more interested in playing baseball. I was more interested in other stuff, but I did, I did all the A through G stuff, and I learned a lot. And I think math was something I really enjoyed. Going back to like Wendy Rodriguez and Christy Brenner teaching me Mr. Adams' calculus class. And what I realized is that because of all the stuff I had learned at Snowline, I became successful pretty quickly in construction, to where I stopped using a shovel pretty quick, and I started holding a notebook and doing a lot of math, and realizing that when you can do algebra and trigonometry, you actually move up pretty quickly. And so one of the things that I really enjoyed was kind of that math background. And after a short period of time, and I'm kind of, I'll bring this around to develop a little bit of a point here, but I kind of said I wanted to do that forever. There were certain things I said I'd never wanted to do, and one of those was do what my dad does, and become a pastor. And I started getting really involved in my church in those construction days. And so for about 6 of those years in construction, I was very involved in my church and taking extra classes on the side. And in 2011, I went into full-time ministry, which I swore I'd never do. And even worse, I started working with students, which was even more difficult. I was like, I wasn't cool in high school. I didn't want to work with high schoolers again, but I did. And one of the things I just learned was to serve. That's what the word ministry means anyway, right? It's service. And so just serving these students and their families, serving within that community there in Santa Fe Springs, and then came up here in 2015, the beginning of the school year there. So September 2015 is when we moved back home to Phelan. And I just started getting involved. I started serving the community as best as I could, got involved with the Snowline Community Cabinet, and just little things throughout the community that we can do. Obviously with our church, we try to do a lot here in the community. And as pastors here in the community, we're allowed to go on campus as chaplains. We go through the school police and get approved to be chaplains. And just being on campus on a weekly basis and seeing not only what students are seeing, but what the staff and the teachers are seeing, the administration. I just wanted to keep serving. And so it felt like an opportunity opened up here to run for this position. And I just felt like I wanted to really help be that voice for the students. And so I guess as a legacy going forward, I really appreciate what Robert said about leaving a place better than you found it. I used to say that all the time to my youth kids whenever we went to a restaurant or a place that we would go with our youth group, and say, hey, you guys better leave the place cleaner than we found it. And that's my goal, is to keep doing those sorts of things here. And again, whatever that looks like, I want to see all students have a plan when they graduate high school. I know for me, I kind of had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. And so I would just like to see them be prepared and ready to graduate and move on from here. Or even if kids move from here, that the next district they attend, that district would be better because students came from Snowline. So also one of the things I'd love to see is for parents to really re-engage. One of the things I've seen at the high school level for sure is a lot of teachers who are discouraged. I feel like they're having to do a lot, not just teach the subject matter, but they're having to be, advocates for the students. They're having to be disciplinarians. They're having to be cheerleaders for these kids. They're doing so much more than I think they initially signed up for. And I'd like to see parents kind of shoulder some of that load again and take that responsibility for their kids and for their education. And so I love to serve. I love to help lead. And I think we've seen that in a few different ways here in the community so far. So sorry, that was probably over 2 minutes, but.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
Daniel. Mitch, thanks for letting us go through that. I'll turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. Hey, before I go any further, when I put the PowerPoint up on the screen, I'm unable to see anybody, so I might need some technical help. I don't know if I should get out of the full screen, and because I can hear you, but I can't see anybody. So
I'll tell you this, Mitch. Yeah, if you trust us, we're not making any faces at you yet. So if people start doing that, I'll let you know. But if you're comfortable there, Mitch, the full screen might be easier for everyone to see, but it works for you.
Well, it's just that I wish we could be in face to face, but because of the times right now, we're doing the next best thing, and that's virtual. So with that being said, first of all, thank you all for sharing what great legacies you'd like to leave. And it comes back to a circle all the way around to why I went into education in the first place. And that's because I also wanted to make a positive difference in the lives of students that would impact them for a lifetime. And, I heard each of you sort of say the same thing. I heard the word service and servant over and over and over again. And, that's what it's all about. And I think you're going to see as we go through this presentation that it's going to build upon what you've already shared. So with that being said, let me go to the next slide and let's go ahead and move forward. Ryan, again, I can't see anybody. I can hear you. So we'll just keep going like that. We're going to talk about 4 different foundations of effective governance. One is the human factor. Secondly, the leadership factor. Third is the culture of trust. And the fourth one is the collaborative working relationships. And quite frankly, I heard all of you sort of say some of these very same things about what makes for good governance. And if you look at the illustration on the slide there, it talks about openness and transparency, integrity, effective collaboration, and performance orientation. So all those things feed into what makes for the foundations for effective governance. So the first thing we're going to cover is real quickly is, and again, we're going to go through this quickly because we have a lot to share with you. And then we can come back around if we need to, but I just want to be able to get everything sort of out on the table so that you have an idea. And I know, Ryan, you've already done some work with the current board, but I think for the new board members, this will be extremely valuable and important information. But first of all, the human factor is the belief that every person is a worthwhile human being, that everybody is intrinsically good. Everyone has a tendency towards growth. Everyone has a worth. It's unconditional. It's not based upon conditions. And to believe this for others, you need to believe this for yourself first. That you're worth, that you have a worth, you have a value in what you bring to the table. And basically everything that you shared, you're bringing all this to the table and you want to be able to promote that. And I think that's important. We also have to have an unconditional acceptance of others, that we accept others for who they are. You bring to the table a lot of diversity, a lot of background experience. And it's important that we accept each other. There's no conditions. We accept you for who you are. And that we have a non-judgmental approach to accountability. And that all, if you're familiar with Carl Rogers' work, that sort of comes into his work and his studies and his research. The next factor is the leadership factor, characterized as servant leadership. And I heard several of you say service and servant, which is so important. Servant leadership is a management and leadership style that is characterized by the leader's servanthood to those being led. And it's simply, as you've already shared, it's a leadership style where the leader places himself or herself in a position of subservience towards those he or she leads. That doesn't mean that you become a servant to others. That means that you serve others. And bottom line is, servant leadership simply means service above self. And I sure heard each of you share that you want to provide a service. It's not about you, but it's about providing service to your community and particularly to the students that you are entrusted in to care for and to educate. When you look at Webster's definitions, a servant is a person ardently devoted to another, as you are ardently devoted to your students and to staff. Ardent means a warm or intense feeling, passionate, intensely enthusiastic or devoted, which it's clearly obvious from what you shared this morning that you are devoted. You have a passion for what you do. And there's a really high level of enthusiasm, which I think is so important in the work that you do. And that's contagious. When you're enthusiastic, when you're passionate and you're devoted, that's contagious, and it's gonna spill over to those that you work with. Some of the characteristics of servant leadership is a genuine interest in the welfare and the well-being, success, happiness, and self-fulfillment of others, particularly subordinates, but also peers and superiors. It's non-judgmental, unconditional acceptance of others, particularly subordinates, but also your peers, those that you work with as part of the board, those that you work with as part of the executive leadership team. Catering to others, going the extra mile to provide them help and support. So often, we go only so far, but as servant leaders, you have to go above and beyond and go that extra mile, which again, I heard everybody say basically that same thing. It's a willingness to listen, hear, and act upon the expressed needs of others. So important that we take time to listen and hear, and then we act upon what we hear. And it's leading by example, not by directives and mandates. Ryan, I know in your position as superintendent, and I know you probably have the same leadership style, but I made it pretty clear that I may be the superintendent, but I'm not necessarily the most important. I have to lead, and I have to lead by example. I can't just put directives and mandates out there and expect people to follow. I need to be out on the front lines. I need to be able to lead by example. It's also important as a servant leader that we honor others, allowing others to receive credit and glory while the leader stands in the shadow, even though he or she may have been the instigator and catalyst responsible for the success. And I think that gives credence to your team. That lets them know that you care for them, that you want to support them. And again, in the business that we're in as educators, it's not important who receives the credit. Most important is the impact that we have on the kids that we serve and the community members that we interact with. It's holding self and others accountable for commitments made and standards set without being judgmental or punitive. It's motivating and allowing others to become servant leaders. And as the little picture says there, successful leaders don't drain the motivation, they fuel it. And I don't know, I've been in many districts, and you can tell where leaders and board members, when they're working together and they're motivational, you can just feel the energy in that district. And you all said is in the things that you shared that you wanted Snowline to be the best district. And that can be done, but it can't be done unless you motivate and allow others to become the servant leaders. And this also includes the art of forgiveness. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge the future. So we've got to be able to forgive. We've got to be able to move forward. But it also means forgiveness is a prerequisite for unconditional acceptance and servant leadership and a bridge to trust. That issue of trust is so important, and you can see in the picture how they're building that bridge to trust. And it takes time to build that trust. And that trust is what will help carry the district forward. But it also, on the other side, it also can be that you can break trust in only a matter of minutes, but it takes a long time to build trust. So it's important that we continue to build that culture of trust. We need to forgive ourselves to be able to forgive others. So that concept of forgiveness is so very important. And I know we all go through life and there are things that maybe we felt wrong, but if we focus on those things, that impedes us, does not allow us to move forward together. So the next area is the culture of trust. And Dick, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you. A few years ago, Stephen Covey wrote a little book on the speed of trust. And I think that's a great title. And trust really underlies all of our relationships with others. And as you see on the screen, confidence in a person or thing because of the qualities one perceives or seems to perceive in it, and acceptance of something as true or reliable without being able to verify it. But trust is the foundation that if you don't have it, then other things just fall apart. And in developing trust, there's a dual responsibility. There's the responsibility of the one to be trusted. You have to be trustworthy, having and displaying qualities that will evoke confidence in others. And then you've got to be responsible to be the one that's trusting, accepting something as true or someone as reliable without being able to verify it. In a school district, there are so many teams and groups that absolutely need trust first if they're going to be effective and efficient. And of course, members of the board. This is just huge. There has to be a culture of trust in there. The same with the superintendent and members of the board. There has to be high trust and a culture of trust between them. Between the board, superintendent, and the executive cabinet. All of those individuals have to have a high trust level. Within the executive cabinet, with the leadership team and the principals, and the certificated and classified staff and leaders, and of course the board and the community. But when a district has a culture of trust, you can imagine how they're perceived by the community if there's high trust levels, which then you can build on and get really very efficient efficiencies and effectiveness as a district, and the community sees that, and there's how your reputation in the community is defined. But it all begins with trust and having a trusting relationship. So in Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust, he says leaders succeed when their team succeeds. And he had 12 ways. The reason he wrote the book is he wanted to describe how you can build a culture of trust, because it's so important in a district. And so here are the 12 things that he believes you can do that will build that culture of trust in a district. The first is talk straight. And what he's talking about here is being honest, telling the truth. Let people know where you stand. Call things what they are. Demonstrate integrity. Don't manipulate people or distort facts. Don't spin the truth. His next one is demonstrate respect. And here he's talking about genuinely care for others. Show you care. Respect the dignity of every person in every role. Treat everyone with respect, especially those who can't do anything for you. Show kindness in little things. Third is create transparency. Declare your intent. Get real and genuine. Be open and authentic. Err on the side of disclosure. Be transparent about not being able to be transparent. In your roles, you have to keep confidences, and you need to let people know that you need to keep confidences. Don't have hidden agendas, and don't hide information. Next is righting wrongs. Make things right when you're wrong. Apologize quickly. Demonstrate humility. Don't cover things up, and don't let pride get in the way of doing the right thing. Next one is show loyalty. Give credit to others. Speak about people as if they were present. Don't badmouth others behind their backs, and don't disclose others' private information. And deliver results. Establish a track record of results. Get things done. Make things happen. Don't make excuses for not delivering. Continuously improve. Here he's talking about increase your capabilities. Be a consistent learner. Develop feedback systems, both formal and informal. And don't consider yourself above feedback. Next, he talks about confronting reality. Acknowledge the unsaid. Confront issues before they turn into major problems. Lead out courageously in conversation. Confront the reality, not the person. Next, he talks about practicing accountability and how important that is. Hold yourself accountable first. Hold others accountable second. Take responsibility for results, good or bad. Be clear on how you'll communicate how you're doing and how others are doing. Don't blame others or point fingers when things go wrong. He also talks about listening and how important that is. Listen first. Listen before you speak. Understand, diagnose. Listen with your ears and your eyes and your heart. Don't assume you know what matters most to others. Don't presume you have all the answers or even all the questions. And last, how important it is to keep commitments and confidences. Say what you're going to do, then do what you say you're going to do. Make keeping commitments the symbol of your honor. And don't break confidences. Because trust underlines everything, again, with all of the working relationships that you have, if you're going to have an effective and efficient district and a governance organization, you have to start with a culture of trust. It's just so important with all of these different combinations of working relationships. You know, a few years ago, I read an article by Gary Kelly, who's the CEO of Southwest Airlines. And he said that Southwest was a people organization that just happened to be involved with airplanes. And I thought a public school district could say the same thing, that they're a people organization. They're all about people and relationships, and they just happened to be involved in schools. And really, we are that. And creating trust-based working relationships with all of our teams and between all of our groups is just incredibly important. Okay, Mitch, go ahead.
The next step is establishing collaborative working relationships.
Mm-hmm. And the foundations, of course, are unconditional acceptance, and we've talked about servant leadership, trusting relationships, and having open and honest communication. All hugely important in creating those really effective working relationships. If you do create this culture of trust, what you'll see then is a team spirit. You'll have a feeling of one team, that you're all on one team. You'll have a feeling of congeniality, collegiality, equal status on the team. You'll find that you have one focus, the children we serve. And for accountability, you'll have a culture of everyone feeling that they're accountable to everyone. And that's a great place to be.
Yep. And with that said, that takes us, Ryan, to the end of number 2, Foundations for Effective Governance. And before we hit the next section about principles and procedural guidelines, are there any comments or any thoughts that you or any of your team would like to share with regard to those foundations of effective governance?
Mitch, I'll just say real quickly, I'm so appreciative of the emphasis on servant leadership. That service before self. I think you nailed it earlier, Mitch, that we heard that from so many individuals, our new board members, the current board members, and those who I get to work with. And that's a powerful place to be. And I appreciate the emphasis that you two put on servant leadership and simply defining it as service before self. It absolutely makes sense. It's what we owe this community, and I'm looking forward to working with this team for sure in that context.
Thank you. Well, you've got a great team to work with. Just in what was shared this morning, you have obviously a lot of team spirit. You're one team. Are there any other comments or thoughts, Eddie, from any of the board members or the executive cabinet members?
I would like to comment that I believe all of that was stated is true. And I am really encouraged in meeting Daniel and Nathan that you're going to meld in well with this team, and we will be able to be a very effective board. I'm very encouraged by that.
Wonderful.
I just want to say, prior to my joining the or running for the board, I had watched this group and always noted that everybody, seemed to work well with each other. And it wasn't until I was attending the Masters in Governance conferences that so many boards and superintendents do not have that relationship and do not have that trust. And so it has given me great amount of pleasure knowing that we are a highly functioning, highly effective team here, from the superintendent, his senior staff, and the board. So it's been enjoyable knowing that what we get done is effective, because to date we have built a significant amount of trust, and I'm just really happy to know that that's what we have here.
Thank you for sharing. And that's what helps Snowline stand apart. You talked earlier, shared earlier about wanting to make this district the best, and that's the start. And I think sometimes districts don't see that. And from what you've shared, I appreciate what you shared, because that's what helps Snowline stand out above the rest. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, with that, then Dick's going to start the effective governance. We're going to talk about principles and procedural guidelines. So Dick, this next part, we've addressed human and leadership factors, the importance of those, as well as establishing a culture of trust and collaborative working relationships, and how they must become the foundational prerequisites for effective governance. The thing is, however, they can easily get lost and disappear if the policies or the principles or all the procedural guidelines that provide needed network for behavioral boundaries and systems of communications are not established and adhered to systematically. So we have to remember that the foundation we just talked about can get lost if we get lost in the policies, principles, and guidelines. And that's why it's so important to have that culture of trust. That's why it's important to remember that we are servant leaders and that we must have collaborative working relationships. But the reverse is also true. While policies, principles, and procedure guidelines provide needed networks for behavioral boundaries and systems of communications, they cannot be fully effective for a superintendent board until human and leadership factors are addressed and a culture of trust and collaborative working relationships are established. Just like that picture in the slide shows, they're interconnected. And if they become disconnected, then that takes away from your ability to be able to move your district forward, because then you begin to lose trust. You begin to lose that concept of servant leadership. So that takes us to the powers of the board and superintendent. And Dick, I'll let you take from there.
Oh, thank you. Talking about the powers of the board and superintendent, an individual board member has no legal authority in and of himself. So you only have power as a board member when you're at a board meeting, at an agendized board meeting as part of the governing board as a body. The superintendent has no powers except for the power of persuasion and the powers that the board policies subscribe to them. Individual board members' role is to work cohesively with their fellow board members as one body constituting the governing board. The governing board holds the power. The role of the governing board is to govern. Members should not micromanage nor macromanage and only govern collectively. We're working now with several districts that have one or more board members that are having a kind of a problem with that, and it's amazing how even one board member that is micromanaging and trying to tell people at the school sites what to do and how to do it, and that just never works, and it destroys trust, and it just makes things so much harder. So understanding and staying within your role is really important. The governing board is elected by the community to provide leadership and citizen oversight for the schools, and the board shall work with the superintendent to fulfill its major roles, which include establishing a long-term vision for the district, and this is incorporated in your multi-year goals. We'll talk about a little later if we have time, but establishing goals for the district, and those are all long-term goals, multi-year goals, and we're in fact advocating with most districts to, instead of having a set of board goals every year and then LCAP goals, which might be different, to try and put those together so that you only have one set of goals. You've got the LCAP goals that include your whole long-term vision for the district and have just one set. Much easier to deal with and focus on. And then establishing and maintaining a basic organizational structure for the district, including employment of the superintendent, adoption of policies, curriculum, and budget, and the collective bargaining agreement. Those are all roles of the board.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt. Just if we could back up just for 1 second. Can somebody give me LCAP? What's its long? What is it? What's the LCAP stand for?
Yeah, Ryan, you want to?
Local Control Accountability Plan.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I looked it up on the website, but I don't fully understand exactly what it all means.
Tricky acronym for the district plan.
Okay. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
And I was going to say the Local Control Accountability Plan is really what drives the district. And that's what provides, that's what your funding also is supposed to be used in order to accomplish those goals. It comes back to that concept of local control that was instituted a few years ago. And we think the concept of local control is good, but they've come up with this LCAP, which is like your school plan. And that's why we promote the fact that those LCAP goals should be your goals that you are working with as a unified team, the board and the superintendent and his management team. So we're going to talk more about that and hopefully work with you in another time with regard to establishing core values and core belief statements and those goals. So it comes together and ties together so you're all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to get lost in the weeds with that, but I just wanted to understand it a little better. If it's like a long-term strategic plan for the district, if it's like a how far out strategic plan, is it, you know what I mean? And I'm sure we'll get into it later. I don't want to float out.
Yeah, LCAP goals are big picture goals, and you're not going to achieve them in a year or even a couple of years. These are long-term goals that you're going to be working on for several years. Also, as roles of the board, ensuring the accountability of the local community, and including personnel, programmatic and fiscal accountability, and service as a judicial and appeals body as needed. You'll sit as kind of the judge and jury for expulsions and looking at interdistrict transfers or those sorts of things. Providing community leadership and advocacy at the local, state, and national levels on behalf of children, district programs, and public education. I can remember traveling with Art Golden when I was in Hesperia. Art and I would go up to Sacramento, and we actually ran 2 bills that were ultimately successful that gave the high desert some extra money for busing, and boy, was that a process to learn how to effectively go to Sacramento and get things done, and it was exciting. The role of the superintendent is, of course, to lead the district. And manage the district. Now, remember, the board sets the what. They decide the goals and the direction for the board, and that's the what. The role of the superintendent is then taking that and processing the how, and they decide how to do it and getting it done. And so leading the district, managing the district, representing the district, those are all roles of the superintendent. Working collaboratively with the board, of course, to provide effective follow-up and follow-through to all board members regarding their questions and concerns. And distinguishing between governance and management.
So this next section has to do with governance versus management. And really governance As the Board of Trustees, you're the governing board. So the role of the governing board is to set policies, establish goals, which you'll work on together along with your superintendent, and he'll work with his executive cabinet to empower the superintendent to implement district policies and goals. Approve, disapprove recommendations made by your superintendent, and refer matters to the superintendent for their review and follow-up. Management then becomes the role of the superintendent for example, bringing policy recommendations to the governing board, bring recommendations for goals to the governing board, and we're hoping to be able to spend some time with you in the spring to talk collectively as a team about what your core values are and what those belief statements are to support those core values, which will tie into your goals. And then ultimately, Ryan and his team will put together the objectives, which is the how to accomplish some of those goals. To implement board policies and develop administrative regulations, develop strategies for meeting established goals, and to provide leadership for staff to implement policies and goals as set by the board. So governance, as I think Dick mentioned earlier, defines the what, which is the goal or the product or the outcome. Management then becomes responsible for the how, the where, the when, the who, and the why. And when we talk about management, I know, Ryan, you mentioned earlier, this is not something that you do on your own. It takes a collective team, and you've got a great executive cabinet, and you've got a set of principals, you've got teaching staff, you've got a lot of people to help you do that. I think sometimes we automatically think, well, gee, how am I going to get that done? Well, the question shouldn't be how am I going to get done? How are we going to get that done? And address the questions of where and when and who and why. So it becomes a team effort. In the school board field book written by Mark Van Clay and Perry Soldwadell, he talks about three essential roles. One is the strategic, which is the governing board, which defines the what. There's the tactical, which is the superintendent leadership, who talks about, okay, how are we going to do it? By when will we get it done? Where will it be done? Who's going to do it? And why does it need to be done? And also there's the operational piece, which is the how, when, where, who, and why. And that becomes the responsibility of the superintendent and his staff. The three issues that define each of those three roles that we talked about is everybody brings expertise and background knowledge to the table. There's a discussion about time amongst the team as to how can we get this done and how long is it going to take us. Oftentimes boards will say, gee, we want to get this done by next month. And Ryan and his team will say, well, wait a minute, we're going to need to take a little bit more time because these are the things we need to do in order to accomplish that task. And also there's access to data and information. They have, as leaders of the district, they have access to data and information that's going to be important in being able to help you accomplish particular tasks. And that comes back to your goals and objectives. As an illustration of the roles, I sort of an overview. You talk about the role of the governing board. Well, as the governing board, you have the view from the 25,000 foot level. The superintendent has the view from the 5,000 foot elevation, and the role of the managers and staff are boots on the ground. Now, not to say, Ryan, that you probably, in working with the board, you also have the 25,000 foot view or maybe the 50,000 foot view. But you're closer to the situation because you're actively involved and you also have boots on the ground. But this just sort of gives you a picture of the board having the 25,000 foot view. The superintendent is the 5,000 foot view, and then the role of the managers and staff, which are boots on the ground. You're on the front lines. Board meeting structure. Board president presides at all board meetings, and that means calls meetings to order and adjourns meetings, enforces Robert's Rules of Order or other rules of order as adopted by the board, and is responsible for maintaining decorum. Suggested board meeting format, which a lot of districts do, and you know, it's going to differ from district to district, and you do what works for you and what's most comfortable for you. but typically the board president announces the agenda item. The president then calls upon the superintendent to introduce the item. President asks for a motion and then a second, and then opens the item for discussion. If comment cards have been submitted, president invites members of the public to comment. And at the conclusion of discussion, or at his or her discretion, the president then calls for the vote. For the decision-making process, typically a recommendation is initiated by the superintendent, or the superintendent is asked by the board from previous discussions or perhaps a discussion at a board meeting to bring forth the recommendation. Criteria for superintendent recommendations and board decisions, which is so important that when we make recommendations and board decisions, there are particular criteria that we have to keep in mind. And that is there going to be, and what will the impact or what might that impact on students, parents, and staff be? Is there a fiscal impact? I know your business services guy is going to appreciate that. Okay, what's the fiscal impact? Sounds like a great idea, but it's going to cost money to do it. What's the fiscal impact? What's the legality of doing it? Is it within our purview? Is it within Ed Code? Are there guidelines and directions from state and federal laws and regulations that we need to follow? And then the important thing is once the decision is made by the board is that everyone owns the decision. And oftentimes this can become a disruptive or a divisive factor for boards, and that there might be someone who feels very strongly about going a different direction. However, the board as a collective team made the decision to go a different direction. The important thing is, although one may not agree with the decision that was made by the board, the important thing is, okay, this is the decision that the board made and this is what I stand by. So it's important that as a team that everyone owns the decision.
And publicly supports it, even though they may have been on a losing side on a vote.
Absolutely.
And that's what great boards do. Common courtesy.
Ryan, I know you know this. Superintendent, don't blindside your board. Keep them informed. And I know you do a good job of that. But there are districts out there that doesn't happen, and it causes mistrust. It causes divisiveness. So don't blindside your board. Keep them informed. Superintendent board members do not surprise one another at a public meeting. No one gains from embarrassing the other. It only harms children, and it creates also divisiveness. And it also breaks down that culture of trust that we talked about earlier. And board members do not individually give direction to the superintendent. Only the board as a body has that authority. And again, we're working with a number of districts, and where board members feel as though they need to manage and give direction to the superintendent, that creates trouble, that creates divisiveness, and it also breaks down the culture of trust. The important thing to remember is that if the direction is given to the superintendent, only the board as a body has that authority.
I would like to address the blindsiding issue in that if a board member has a question concerning an agenda item, it's often good practice to meet with the superintendent in advance of the meeting so that you get clarification. And you can give him a heads up and say, okay, I'm going to ask you this question again in public session. But just so that you are receiving and well informed of the information from the superintendent in advance of the meeting, that's often helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a couple of board members in Tustin. They were a great board, and they would call in and they were really good about asking all their questions before the board meetings. And some would say, that's important for the community to hear. So I'm gonna ask you that again when we talk about this, and I want you to give that same answer because I think the community needs to hear that. And so as long as I knew that was coming, that was great. I mean, that turned out to be a very positive thing, but it was always done in that way. And I was never blindsided by them just asking me, because we televised our meetings, And it was, it could be embarrassing when you're asked and you're not prepared to
Absolutely.
to answer and get caught that way. So be good about that, because it really makes a difference for a superintendent.
Absolutely. And it also shows that you're together as a team. I thank you for sharing that, Dick, because I as a superintendent, I know there were times when I had board members call me that says, we've got this item on the agenda. I don't know that I agree with it, and I'm going to be asking some questions, and I wanted you to know about it. And here's why I'm going to bring it up. That way, when the issue came up, I knew what to expect. I didn't feel blindsided. I didn't feel as though there was something, a second agenda. I knew behind the scenes what was going on, and that's very important to do. Any other comments by anybody?
Mitch, great comments for sure. I just I saw a comment by our clerk, and that's Marcus Hernandez, who said that Nathan's connection just dropped off. So
Oh no. Okay.
we might give him just a moment to get right back in here.
Ryan, we're
It looks
There
like
he
he's-
goes. He
Looks like
joined.
he's coming right back in right now, Mitch.
I was going to say we're making pretty good ground. Do you want to take a 5-minute break? Would that be okay, or do you want to just keep going?
I mean, that's a great question. I see a couple of heads nodding. President Behringer, what do you think about that? If we take a quick pause.
Let's see a consensus.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I lost my connection. I had to run and change rooms for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. Thumbs up if you'd like a break for 5 minutes.
I don't care. Oh, great. Okay.
Thumbs up if you'd like a break for 2 minutes, because I'm not seeing a consensus.
Here you go. This is our.
Okay, let's do a 2-minute break, and we'll see you in a minute then.
Okay, very good. And we'll pick back up real quickly with communication. So let's take a 2-minute break. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mitch. Hey, Mitch, real quickly, how do you feel on the time? I was looking forward. It seems like you and Dick really
is in the following order: the superintendent or his or her designee, board president if no superintendent or designee, and then spokesperson for the board is the board president or any board member that's been designated by the board. So again, the importance of communication is so very important. I think what happens is when we don't communicate, things get lost in the translation. So it's important that we communicate, we talk with each other, we're honest with each other, and that we work together. And that can only happen by communicating and communicating often. And I know, Ryan, you do that with your board. You get information out to them. And when you send information out, it's not just sent to one board member, but it's given to all board members. And that's important because it reinforces the concept of we're a team and we all need to have the same information.
Yeah, and it builds trust.
Absolutely.
That's right. You're not no favorites, building trust. And my goal was always communicating with the board so that they never would go into Stater Brothers and have somebody ask them a question about something that happened at one of the schools that they knew nothing about.
Yes.
I wanted them to be able to say, oh yeah, we know about that. The superintendent's on it. They're taking care of it. That's just huge for a board member.
Absolutely. Ryan, I think you're up. You're going to talk about how the work that you do to prepare and review for Snowline board meetings and then also you're going to take a few minutes to review the upcoming agenda for December 15th. I'm going to get out of this PowerPoint, and I don't know what that looks like to you. But hey, now I can see everybody. Boy, that's a lot better. I can see everyone now. I've been blinded. I've been only being able to stare at that PowerPoint. So it's great to see faces and smiles on your faces. So Ryan, why don't you go ahead and share and talk a little bit about how you prepare the important things, particularly for your new board members, about what it takes to put together an agenda. There's a method to the madness for the agenda and the timelines and dates. And then we're going to go from there into the Brown Act that Dick will cover right after that. So go ahead, Ryan. It's all on your shoulders now.
Thanks so much, Mitch. I appreciate that. Mitch, if you're just able to make not share or no longer share your screen, and then you'll be back with us all the way. I can just vouch for everyone, Mitch. I never saw anything but positive faces the whole time. No one made bad faces.
Thank you. Okay, now how do I do that, Ryan? I'm not familiar with this format. Do I get options again?
Right now, it should say that Mitch, that you're presenting. So if you go back down to that button, Mitch, on the bottom there.
To the right? No. Oh,
yes, right here. Yeah, the bottom right. Does it say that Mitch Hovey is presenting?
I'm presenting. There we go.
There you go, Mitch. Perfect. Yeah. And again, Mitch, and I want to speak on his behalf just real quickly. He is a Zoom guy and he's masterful in that setting. This is his first time, I think, with Google Meet. So thanks for working with us and doing so well up until this point. You said it very well, Mitch. We've got 2 items on our agenda. If you're following along, it's numbers 4 and 5. I think they go together very, very nicely. It's credit to Mitch and Dick for putting them that way. I'll in effect mash them together, but not so much so hopefully for Daniel and Nathan, so that you get a feeling for when we talk about this process, how do you as a singular board member get ready to then become that team when you come together for the second part at number 5, the board meeting itself. So it's been said before, ultimately when we talk about the board meeting agenda, Nancy Stapp, our executive assistant to the superintendent, she is and always will be, the purveyor of all that is needed and necessary. Excuse me, needed and necessary for this process. Nance, can you just start while I get a drink here and talk about our upcoming agenda here? Excuse me, from a process standpoint. Excuse me.
Certainly, Ryan. So the process for an agenda for your meetings is put together by me. I send out an email to all of the administrators and site secretaries, letting them know when I will be collecting the agenda items by. And then I start building the agenda. The agenda covers, as you see on the one that you have today, this one is very simple. Anytime we have a special meeting or study session, it's just a simple format. The one that we will be sending to you today after this meeting is completed, I will post the agenda for the meeting on December 15th. I always have to post the agenda prior to the meeting. I have a 72-hour deadline there that it has to be posted under the Brown Act 72 hours prior to the meeting. So you will receive the agenda. We always try for Thursday afternoon, depending on what we have going on. Otherwise, you will see it Friday morning. And Ryan is usually good about sending out a message to you if it's going to be late. Ryan, do you want to have Alan share the screen? And then you can...
That would be wonderful, Nancy. Thanks for stepping in there as I choked on my own self there, and I'm back in action now. So thanks for doing that in an impromptu fashion. And before I go any further, Kenny Funk, one of our outstanding board members, just like the other two here, are here already. We've got our third. Thanks, Kenny, for taking time in your busy schedule to take part in this supportive effort to bring up our new board members here. Welcome, Kenny.
Thank you.
Sorry, Kenny, for talking over. Yeah, you're certainly welcome. We appreciate seeing you. So again, going from the preparation stage to the actual agenda, this is the upcoming agenda you can see on December 15th. And I just want to say this, take a quick pause to Nathan and to Daniel. Preparation, I will tell you, we at the administrative side, we do a lot of preparation. Nancy does the most of it. But the bottom line is the best perspectives from Christina and from Marcus and from Kenny. So I'm going to take a quick pause and just say to either, to any of you, of the three of you, would you just share your processes, because they're great examples of board members who come prepared to the meeting, and they come prepared as an individual. And I say that, it was mentioned earlier, I should take a quick moment and a pause to say that we used to be an at-large district. We are now by trustee area. And what a great time it is for us to be able to demonstrate truly what together is, because you do represent your area, but we do come together as an overall board here. And I think these three board members have done that well. And can any of you just step up and just talk about your preparation, because you do it well. And I would just love for your insight to be passed along to Nathan and Daniel.
I'll go ahead and start if that's all right. I meet on a weekly basis with Dr. Holman, and so I am abreast of topical issues and familiar with what's going on to the agenda. And when there are informational items or actionable items on the agenda for which I have questions, I will address Dr. Holman. Additionally, he will indicate you might want to get in touch with Mr. Miller or Mr. Zimmerman, in which case, whenever I email a staff member with an agenda question, I always CC Dr. Holman on that as well. And then frequently the response that is given to me is shared with the board at large. But I'm always reading the agenda the day that I receive it, and all of the attachments. It's just really important and helps to get us through the agenda in open session. But the point was well taken that Mr. Bray brought up, in that sometimes we have questions that the public should hear those responses, And so giving a heads up to Dr. Holman or whoever's giving you that information, saying, I will be asking this in public session so that the public can hear it. That's an excellent idea. And that's all I have.
Yeah, so appreciate that, Christina. Marcus and or Kenny. Marcus, it looks like you have your microphone up. Can you share some advice?
Yeah, absolutely. In contrast to Christina, I do not meet weekly with Ryan. I do, if there's something of particular interest that I feel needs discussed. We have met in person in the past, though not as of late. And my method of going through the agenda is often mixed because I'm a full-time employee. I've got a lot of responsibilities that extend past a normal workday. I get to it as I can and as quickly as I can. Oftentimes, as soon as the agenda comes out, I know I have some time and I will start getting the information, start reading through. I think we all see that there are common items that come up monthly and they require a little less time to review than some of the special items that come up. But review items individually and then fire off those emails to the appropriate person, always copying Dr. Holman if he's not the intended respondent that I'm looking for. And it's just a matter of doing it at your own pace where you can digest the information, because sometimes, especially when we get that LCAP information, it is lengthy and it requires a lot of time. And sometimes that 3 or 4 days just isn't quite enough. So, I've come to my meetings and apologized that I had not completed the entire read, because after 200 pages, it's like I just didn't get through it. So that's my method. It's proven well so far. I don't like coming without all the information gone through, but it happens. And usually those are the informational pieces that we may not be making a decision on that night anyway, so it's not as big of an impact. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
So appreciate that, Marcus. And then Kenny, he has been a board member, I'll just say just real quick in an introduction, in 2 different states, in fact, in Colorado and in California. So brings a powerful perspective. Again, welcome, Kenny. Thank you. Your thoughts you'd share?
Yeah, I use a triage method. When I get the information, I read it all through. And some of it is, I know we're going to discuss it in closed session. And so I make notes and I don't respond. I was like, okay, I'll just see how this plays out. Some I do respond to or even instigate. All right, so I know this is coming. What should I be prepared for? Or much like Marcus, I need more information on this. And then there's also that other factor, the public factor, that you're going to be at a football game or a basketball game, or you're going to get an email from the public. And is that just hey, I just want to introduce myself? And I've gotten some that this needs a bigger attention. So really the trick of triage, just knowing you don't have to answer every question every time in full length. That's not your job. Some of them you have to give a lot of attention to, and some of them are just passing information that's important for you to know to answer questions. And some of them, you're going to get into a discussion with your fellow board members of the administration with. So my advice is to read it all, make notes on the stuff that you're going to be involved in, and then the other stuff, keep at bay. You can get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that you're going to get. And you'll learn in time. I would say by the 3rd or 4th month, you'll realize it's not drinking from a fire hose. All right. You're going to get information at that pace, but you don't have to answer all those questions. You have an excellent team of administrators who can answer questions for you. And you have fellow board members who are going to say, we've been there. Here's a perspective. And so reach out to them. That'd be my advice.
Great.
Yeah, just great advice on all fronts. Thank all 3 of you. And so to Daniel and Nathan, any questions before I move on to the specifics of what an agenda will look like and give you some details there? But any questions of our 3 board members? Just super advice, in my opinion. Nathan, you looking? There we go. Thanks, Nathan.
I got you. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Hey, what are the secret closed meetings that everyone wants to know about?
Secret.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of research, believe it or not, before I jumped into this thing. So I'm scouring the internet because basically that's the only form on like an outsider can pull information down from. So I'm reading all the agendas from the board meetings, and I attended all the board meetings that I could attend. And there was from the outside looking in, there's not that much available information out there. So I'm wondering about the closed meetings, and I know I'm gonna figure it out, and we're gonna go through the meetings. But I guess it is what it is. You talk about things that don't need to be in the public, or
no,
they talk about how to take over the world usually.
Okay, yeah.
There's very few things that you actually can talk about in a closed session, and I'll go over those when I go through the Brown Act. They're all contained in the Brown Act.
Okay.
A great question, though, Nathan. And that's a great segue, Nathan, your question, because as we see what Alan's displaying on the screen, and thank you so very much, Alan. And Nancy, thanks for your introduction as I choked on my own saliva, I think, or something like that. So thank you for bearing with me there. So this would be the agenda for the upcoming meeting on Tuesday. It's a special, I won't use that term. I'll be careful. We're in a special meeting now, but it's a really unique board meeting because oath of office will be in there here too. And this is a lot of fun to be able to share with our two new board members. But just from top to bottom real quickly, at 5 o'clock, and Nathan, you had referenced this, we have closed session we conducted before our open session. So our closed session starts at 5 o'clock with open session at 6. And so what's called to order in two different instances is each of the meetings. And so the president, Christina Berenger, will call to order the closed session at 5 o'clock. In this time, of course, we're meeting remotely like we are right now. Community comments just for closed session items are then asked for and heard for closed session. And once that's taken care of, Daniel and Nathan, then we convene to closed session, and that is that private meeting that Dick Bray just alluded to. That there are only select items that, in effect, are confidential items that can be talked about in that setting. Quick overview: personnel, student expulsions. Alan, if you're able to scroll down a little bit, you can see that first item of business we'll be talking about will be pupil personnel and student discipline, and then in the second item here, we've got employee discipline, dismissal, release issues that are, again, confidential personnel issues that we can only talk in that setting. And then the third one would be labor negotiations, of course, and only the particular items under the Brown Act within those three areas. And there are a few others, real property I'm thinking of, legal issues that we need to discuss. Mitch and Dick, what else am I missing?
I'll go through all of them.
Okay. Thanks, Dick.
Yeah.
We're going to cover that in the next section for Brown Act. We're going to spell it out a little bit more. So I think that'll answer a lot of your questions.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. So I won't go too far.
Just a reminder too, Nathan, that there's a booklet published by the Orange County Department of Education that we've sent to Ryan. I don't know, Ryan, if you've had a chance to share that with him, but that's a booklet that you get a chance to read and go through at your leisure, and I think it'll answer a lot of questions. I don't know that we ever become experts, but at least it'll give you a good background and working knowledge about what the Brown Act talks about. A lot of it will address closed session items, I think, that you had questions about.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. And Nancy did well to distribute that. And then Dennis Zimmer, I want to make sure, did I see a hand raised? I don't see your face on my screen. Did you raise a hand?
Accidentally, my speaker button and my raise hand button are right next to each other. So
no problem, Desmond. Thanks. I just want to make sure I didn't walk right past you there. And then into open session here to Nathan and Daniel. So that's the setting that we would reconvene out in the public where everyone can participate. And you see from the Pledge of Allegiance, that would transpire. Now, this is a different setting. Typically, we don't have an oath of office in every meeting, right? It happens because the new board members, the two of you, will be sworn in and will recognize our two leaving board members, one of whom is with us, Kenny Funk, and then Dave Nielsen. And then after all the pomp and circumstance and our great appreciation for their tremendous work, then you, Nathan, and you, Daniel, will then take the oath of office. That oath of office will be administered, and then you will literally take those seats and we'll move forward with the rest of what would then be a more normal agenda, where community comments from the public pertaining to items on the agenda or non-items on the agenda would be taken. The agenda would then be adopted, and then we'd move forward with two different types that we just need to talk about real quickly. We have consent motions, a course of, and Alan, if you continue down on the next page or two, you'll see a number of agenda items that are more common and don't require discussion, that can be approved all in one lot, one large group in this consent format. And then after that, as you continue to scroll through, Alan, we'll have items that typically will lead to discussion and then action as is necessary within the given areas of student learning and support services, business support services, and then administratively right down there at the end. And so trying to be a little mindful of time, that's an overview there. I know Nathan and Daniel, you have seen our board meetings and participated on the other side of the table, if you will. That will serve you very, very well. But before I turn it back over to Mitch and Dick, I'll look to you, Nathan, as well as Daniel. Any questions that come to mind? Because Nathan, your question a moment ago was a great one, which we'll get to in a moment. But any others in the open session that not only I can answer, but these board members who've done it very well, that can give you some advice for a standing regular meeting.
No, I just want to thank the board members that are leaving. Good job. I watched you guys perform really well on the board, and I hope I can represent the board just as well as you guys did. So good job, guys. And as far as questions, I think it's just going to be a learning process as we go along. And I mean, we're going to learn it all today.
Yeah. I mean, so well said. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Nancy. Sorry.
May I let them know that to Daniel and Nathan, you will be receiving an email from me letting you know that the agenda has been posted. It will have your link to click in, log in. I will send you an email with your password. And then what we can do from there, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll send you my cell phone number as well. If you have problems over the weekend, if you're trying to access it, you can text me, call me, whatever. I am available to help you.
Yeah, Nancy, that's so very well said. And I would just say before I turn this over, I don't know if I do anything well, Nathan and Daniel, but one toward the well side would be hiring outstanding people. And so when you look at Dennis, Alan, Robert, and Nancy, they are super at what they do. And so know that if you have any questions, just like Nancy said, about anything on that agenda, they are more than willing to answer any questions. And I try to be the same way. And you have our cell phones, you have my cell phone. I mean, at any point in time, Dick said it so well. And Dick, I was just amazed at how you chose Stater Brothers as your example, because that is our example up here, right? It's the perfect one.
Stater Brothers is...
We get a lot of work conducted completed at Stater Brothers, right? And so you just nailed it with that, Dick. And I love when you said that, because I know Daniel and Nathan have been to Stater Brothers, right? They know what that's like as well. And so when I say that, don't ever hesitate to ask any of us about anything so you feel informed, because it's such a challenging job. I mean, in most cases, it's a second job you're taking on, or third job when you count your families, right? So please let us help you by giving you what's needed to ensure that you feel comfortable to be able to conduct what you need to do in your leadership position. So Mitch, back to you. I thank you for letting me speak to those two pieces there.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can do it here. I need to get back to present now, entire screen. Allow. See, I'm a quick study there, Ryan.
Yes, you are.
All right, here it comes. All right, so now I'm presenting my screen, and now I'm going to be back to where all I can see is the PowerPoint. I can't see all your smiley faces. But here we go. Play from current.
You're doing well, Mitch. Yep, you got it. Well done.
So we're ready for the next. Thank you, Ryan, for sharing that. Thank you, board members, for sharing some of your secrets and tips as to how to prepare and get ready for board meetings, and preparing new board members for all the information they're going to be getting. It's an ongoing experience that you'll learn throughout the time that you're on the board. So, and you never stop learning. With that being said, we're going to move into the Brown Act. And again, you do have a presentation or a book that was prepared by the Orange County Department of Education that Ryan will give you. But basically, all conduct of board business is governed by the Brown Act. And I'm going to let Dick take it from here.
Thank you. Well, the open meeting law, the Brown Act, it has actually been around for a long, long time. It was enacted in, I think, 1954. And it's been by the state legislature. The interesting thing about that is that they exempted themselves from the open meeting law. So they still routinely have secret meetings. So, but everybody else, all boards and commissions are under the Brown Act. And it starts out by saying, in enacting this chapter, the legislature finds and declares that the public commissions, boards, and councils, and the other public agencies in this state exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. And it's the intent of the law that their actions be taken openly and their deliberations be conducted openly. And that's why while they allow closed sessions, it's very prescribed and focused on just a few areas that you can do that. We'll get to those in a minute. And as Nancy said, the board agenda has to be on a regular meeting, has to be posted 72 hours beforehand. If it's a special meeting, you only need to post a special meeting 24 hours beforehand. The third type of meeting is an emergency meeting, and that needs to be like an hour beforehand. But it's got to be something really, really pressing. I know in the high desert, when I was in Hesperia, we had several emergency meetings, all related to fires, big fires, and we needed to get the board together to talk about things we had to do quickly. So in emergency situations, you can pull together the board and have a board meeting very quickly. So in addition to the posted agenda for regular meetings, a board packet, with the exception of closed session materials, needs to be made available to any inquiring members of the public. When a handout is presented to the board at a meeting that hasn't been included in the packet 72 hours earlier, then the public must be informed of its availability for their review upon request. And matters not posted on the agenda cannot be discussed nor acted upon by the board. There is one caveat to that. If an item comes up after the agenda is posted that can't wait to the next board agenda, there is a way that the board could add that item to the current board agenda. But it takes a 4/5 vote by the board to do that. And again, the criteria is it has to be something that can't wait to the next meeting, and it came up very late after the 72 hours. Okay, let's go on. Now, the latest change actually took effect in January of 2019. And if it talks about if you have a website, then you need to be posting your agenda on the homepage of your website, or at least a link to it on your homepage on your website. And it needs to be posted in an open format that is retrievable, downloadable, indexable, searchable, platform independent, and machine readable, available to the public free of charge and without any restrictions. In other words, if someone is looking for your board agenda for the upcoming meeting, they should be able to go to your website. On the home page, there should be a link to your next agenda or your agendas, and they would be able to pull that up and print it off if they wanted to. Now, the Brown Act requires that the public is afforded time at all regular meetings for comment on non-agendized items. Also, agendized items, well, let me just say, on non-agendized items, those have to be comments that are on something that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. They can't talk about zoning laws or things that you have no control over. So it has to be something that you actually have jurisdiction over, that may not be on the agenda, but they want to talk about it. And then public comments for agendized items and special board meetings may be made after the item is introduced, but before the board acts on the item. Or they could do it at the common comment time. Either way. The public is afforded time for comment on closed session items before the board goes into closed session. And the public comments portion of the agenda is not intended for the board to conduct a dialogue with the public. Rather, it's for the board to hear the public. And this is really important. The Brown Act makes the point that the board meeting is a meeting of the board just held in public with an opportunity for you to hear input from the community before you act on items. But it's your meeting. It's not an open meeting. Okay? It's a meeting of the board held in public and with a provision for public input. But it's not like a just wide open meeting. Okay? So there is a difference. And that's why you can control it in terms of setting reasonable times for people to speak. The most common is, 3 to 5 minutes, depending on, and you can change it if you have a room full of speakers. You can say instead of 5 minutes, you have 3 minutes, those kinds of things. Because it's your meeting, you just have provision for hearing comments. Okay? And that's why you don't want to start discussions with a public speaker. Okay, go to the next one, Mitch. I don't know how what your constituency looks like that speaks at meetings, but if you have non-English speaking folks that want to speak, the Brown Act says that when limiting time for public comment, the board shall provide at least twice the allotted time to a member of the public who utilizes a translator. So if someone is standing next to them and translating their comments into English, you need to give them more time, like twice as much time. Just makes sense to do that. This shall not apply to the board if the board hears the translation simultaneously through translation equipment. Now, closed session. Closed session items are the only items exempt from being open to the public as described in the main body of the Brown Act. And here are the areas that you can talk about and have a closed session about. One is with real property negotiators. And again, you don't want to, these are all things that there would be a big downside if you did in public. If you are looking to buy property, it may be a site for a new school. Gosh, if the person who owns that property could listen into your negotiations about how much you're prepared to offer eventually, you'd never get the best price. So it just makes perfect sense that would be a closed session item. Same thing with a conference with the labor negotiators. When you're talking about how much raises for employees, that's a negotiation and ongoing negotiations, and you as a board would give parameters for your negotiators. And of course, you don't want to do that in public, otherwise it wouldn't be much of a negotiation. So that's where you do it in closed session. And then meeting with the legal counsel. Now you can meet with your district's legal counsel for two reasons. One, existing litigation, and second, for anticipated litigation. Third is any liability claims. You can look at those and discuss those and what you might do with those in closed session. Any threats to public services or facilities you can talk about in closed session. Public employees' appointments or public employee performance evaluations are both allowed in closed session. Public employee discipline, dismissal, and release. Specific complaints or charges against an employee you would hear in closed session. Student expulsion appeals and interdistrict transfer appeals you all do in closed session. Go ahead and go to the next one, Mitch. Once you take action in closed session, you need to report it out. Generally report it out when you go into open session. And there are some caveats with that. One is confidentiality of information. For instance, if you take adverse action on a student discipline, expulsion, for instance, you wouldn't list the student's name. You would list it by student number. Same thing with an employee. If you take adverse action against an employee, when you report it out, you report it by their employee number rather than their name. Okay, so you keep that confidentiality in those cases.
And Dick, if I could just if I could just chime in, you would not use a student ID number or an employee ID number. It would be a number that you would assign, and sometimes you can refer to the date and number 1, 2, 3. But it's important that you understand, and I think Ryan, you probably know this, is you wouldn't actually use a student ID number or an employee social security number or ID number, something that can be traced back to the student or the employee, just for a matter of reference. And I'm sure, Ryan, you know that. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I had a quick question. So, in regards to like disciplining or termination of an employee, is the board involved in that, or wouldn't that be a management right? Like they're handling business how they should handle as administration, and are we going to be involved in every single disciplinary action or termination of every employee in the district?
Yes. Yes, because, and the reason it would take a vote of the board in those instances, Nathan, is because you're the employer of record. And so even though management is going to bring you the case and bring you the recommendation, it would still have to be a vote of the board.
And that wouldn't mean, Nathan, that you would be involved in the investigation process or the documentation process. Basically, all that happens is your management team will take care of that, and they will have done all the investigation. They will put together reports. They will bring to you a recommendation that the board must take action on, again, because you're the employer of record.
Yeah. The only other thing for to know about reporting out from closed session is that there is one unusual situation, and that's where, for instance, if you're negotiating a contract, if you've been negotiating, say, with your teachers union, and at the table you've agreed, both sides have agreed, okay, this is what we're going to do. Well, now the negotiators on each side have to go back. The management folks, the superintendent is going to come to you and say, this is what we agreed to at the table, and then the board would have to agree to that for that to happen. And the same thing with the teachers union. They would have to go to the teachers and they have a vote that if they approve that contract. So if it comes to you first, if it comes to the board first, and the board agrees, you don't report that out because it's not a done deal. The teachers haven't agreed yet. So you don't report that out because it's not a complete deal. Can you see that, how that works? And then once they agree, then if anybody asks, you can say, yes, it's been approved.
Yeah, okay. Totally understand.
That works pretty much for any contract. So if you're contracting for a service or something and you approve the contract, if it hasn't been approved by the other side, then you don't have to report it out. Okay. But that's the only kind of strange thing that comes with the reporting out.
And typically what will happen is it'll go back to the teachers. They'll do their vote. And then if they approve it, then Ryan would put it on the agenda to have that approved in an open session. So that at some point in time, it will be approved in open session, but ultimately the board must approve it. But that's typically the steps that are taken is the teachers will vote on it. If they approve it, then it goes on the agenda and then the board takes formal action at that time.
Right.
Well, it just acknowledges that it's a done deal.
Yeah, acknowledges it's been done.
Yeah. Now, if interestingly, if for some reason, if the teachers union, for instance, acted very quickly and agreed, and then it came to the board and you agreed, then you would have to report it out because then both sides have agreed. It's a done deal. And so you would, if you're the second body, approving it, then when it's a complete deal, then you have to report it out. Okay, let's go on. All matters discussed in closed session must remain confidential. And folks, this is huge, and it's a concern with every board member because you're going to get asked. You're going to get asked what goes on in closed session. What happened about this? We saw on the agenda, you're disciplining an employee. Who was it? What'd they do? You can't tell them. So you need to understand that the Brown Act disallows you from talking about that and requires you to be confidential. And so you need to explain that to people that you can't break that confidence. And there are consequences if you do. Violation of this section may be addressed by the use of such remedies as are currently available by law, including, but not limited to, injunctive relief to prevent the disclosure of confidential information prohibited by this section, disciplinary action against an employee who has been willfully disclosed confidential information in violation. And by the way, you are not, as a board member, you are not legally an employee of the district. You're a member of the board, which is different. And referral of a member of the legislative body, a board member, who has willfully disclosed confidential information in violation of this section to the grand jury. So it really is a big deal that you've got to keep confidences of closed session actions and discussions. So closed session do's and don'ts: discuss only appropriately agendized matters. Agendize only those matters that are exempt from being open to the public. Don't discuss closed session matters outside of closed session. And keep all confidential matters confidential.
Loose lips sink ships.
That's
yes. Well said.
And interestingly, when you think about this, you need to hold yourself accountable for this and be good about it. But also the board needs to hold every member accountable for staying within the boundaries of the Brown Act. So if you're in a closed session and somebody brings up something that is really not a closed session item or hasn't been noticed as a closed session item, feel free to speak up and say, "Gosh, guys, I don't think this is something we should be talking about in closed session." So everybody needs to be responsible for kind of watching out for those boundaries and staying within the boundaries of the Brown Act for closed sessions. Okay, Mitch.
Something you guys might cover. I don't know. I keep doing this. I ask a question and then you cover it later. But in some of my researching, we're not supposed to collaborate outside of meetings. Also, right?
Right. That's covered on this next
talk about right now.
Next slide.
Okay. Good question. That's perfect. I'm
perfect.
Brought that up.
Okay, I'll try to be quiet.
That's all right. Great question.
Yeah. No. That's good. That's called a serial meeting, and serial meetings are prohibited by the Brown Act. And so, if where it becomes a problem is you're a 5-member board, so 3 is consensus. I mean, 3 members could make it happen at a board meeting. So all of your discussion is supposed to take place within the boundaries of an agendized board meeting, not outside the board meeting. So the Brown Act doesn't want you talking outside of that board meeting, a regularly agendized board meeting, to come to a consensus on what to do about something. It's got to be done within the meeting, not outside. And of course, if three people talk, that creates consensus. So in a 5-member board, can 2 board members talk outside? Yes. But then if one of the two talks to one other person, that's a serial meeting. So you've got to be really good about that. So it says in the Brown Act, a majority of the members of a legislative body shall not, outside a meeting authorized by this chapter, use a series of communications of any kind, directly or through intermediaries, to discuss, deliberate, or take action on any item of business that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative body. Okay, so you've got to be good about that.
With that, I think Mr. Flores had a question. He raised his hand.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm kind of forgetting already. It took a minute. I should have written it down, but if I remember, I'll raise my hand again.
Okay.
Oh wait, I remember. Okay, so I believe someone had mentioned that if they have something that they're going to talk about in the open session, they try to bring it up to Dr. Holman before that meeting with just him. If that's the case, do you need to bring that up to the other board members saying, I'm going to bring this question up to Dr. Holman, or they just find out right there in the meeting as well?
Yes.
Yes, it's best that you just bring it up at the meeting. The important thing is that your superintendent knows you're going to bring it up. And then when you are in the board meeting, you'll bring it up so that all the board members will hear your thoughts.
Okay.
And with social media, this makes it so much easier to have a serial meeting and get in trouble. If you do something just like a reply to all, or retweeting something that one of the other board members sends you, it's just so easy then to send that information to a third board member. You've got to keep that in mind for everything you do, and be real good about not doing that. The court cases that we've seen that have come about in the last few years have almost always been serial meeting kinds of problems and involving email or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or just things that have been done innocently, without thinking much about it, but under the definition committed a serial meeting. So just be aware of that and just be really good. Always keep that in mind. Open meeting issues. School board meetings must be open to the public. Fair notice must be given in advance so that members of the public may attend and comment on the agenda and related matters. And electronic communications that circumvent this access, whether intentional or not, violates the Brown Act. You guys do it well. You shouldn't have any trouble with that. And Orange County Superintendent of the Schools is kind of unusual in having their own legal department. And one of the things that they do for superintendents in Orange County, and both Mitch and I have been superintendents in Orange County, and they stay on top of things really well that we need to know about. And one of the things that they are really good about is producing, like Brown Act, a very comprehensive Brown Act handbook, and keeping it up to date. And their latest one is from January 2018. And it's really good. And we gave that to Ryan, and he has that for you to share with you. And I would hope that you would take some time and go through it, because it's, I've just given you an overview. It really is very much more detailed, and I think you'll enjoy it. The other thing that you can also get Brown Act information from CSBA. They have the Brown Act School Boards and Open Meeting Laws booklet. A lot of times, other information on the Brown Act that you find online, for instance, will be just the Brown Act, just the what the Brown Act says in legislation. But a lot of what happens with the Brown Act is also through court cases, and so the Orange County one is really good about bringing in all of the court cases that have added things to the Brown Act, and so that's the one we've given you and would recommend.
The other source, Ryan, and you may already be aware, there's the Small School Districts Association, SSDA, which is a state association for small school districts. They have all kinds of information, whether it be Brown Act information or for information for board policies, administrative regulations. I don't know if you're a member of that or have been involved with it, but we have other districts that are part of that association, and they are a tremendous support, and they provide terrific resources for you to use and use that will support you in the district.
Yeah, Mitch, one question I was going to ask, do we have access to this PowerPoint, or can you guys, I know it's yours, or I don't know if you guys, whoever built it, but maybe just send that to us so we could overview it again.
Absolutely. I think, Ryan, you have the PDF version, or you can make the PDF version of it so you can share that, right?
Yeah.
Sure can. We sure will. Great question there, Nathan. We'll certainly make sure that happens. And just two items real quickly, Dick, but do you want me to wait until you get through this piece? They are Brown.
No, we're done.
We're done.
Okay. Thank you. I'll add one more resource for Nathan and Daniel to consider, and certainly look to our board members who might want to speak to it, and that's Masters in Governance, right? Sometimes referred to as MIG, just because Masters in Governance, that's the acronym. We use a few, right, Nathan? You had referenced that before. We use a few in education for sure. Please know that'll be available to both of you. I've been through that process, and again, I think who can speak better are the board members. Any of our board members want to speak to Masters in Governance and its value, particularly the Brown Act, and maybe even beyond?
I found it very helpful, and I highly recommend it. I think that Member Hernandez is our most recent graduate, so if you'd like to say a few words about the value of that program.
Yeah, absolutely. That program, it's a series of 5 courses, and it goes over in depth many of the aspects of what we do. I just graduated. The last class, MIG 5 or course 5, was a virtual presentation, which I did not find as engaging as the in-person ones. The first 4, I did 2 classes back to back, so a Friday, Saturday combo on the first 4 courses. And then COVID hit, and my final course was canceled until just this November. But the in-person ones get really engaging with other districts, and you learn a lot more than the information presented, because hearing other people is an excellent part of that education process. Yeah. And so, yeah, highly recommend the MIG courses.
Yeah, thank you to both of you. And I just add that, oh, sorry, Kenny, go ahead there, Kenny.
I'll just say real quick, there's other other opportunities to kind of be engaged as well. One is you may choose to get information from the Colorado or the California School Board Association. They'll send you information. And also, I would highly recommend attending when they have them in person again, the California State School Board conference. It's a great networking tool, but it also is a wonderful chance to take several different courses on a wide range of topics. And I think that's a great way to kind of find out what's going on, not only in your district, but in the state, and a chance to pipe into what's going on with other board members.
And Kenny, as a follow-up to the CSBA, I think they typically hold those conferences right at the very end of November, first week of December. Typically, there's one held in Southern California, which is in San Diego. The other one, then they go back and forth, and then the other one the next year might be held in San Francisco, so the Northern California. I have also found those to be very helpful. It gives you an opportunity to network and talk with other board members from other districts. Excellent opportunity. They also hold a variety of different workshops with different themes. So there might be a theme that this is particularly helpful for those that work in small, that are governing, come from governing boards that are working in small school districts, but they've got a lot of different legal things, curricular and instruction things, but I found it very helpful. And typically, as a superintendent, I would go with my board, and we came away with a lot of valuable information. So good point on that.
Agreed. And it's paid for. I mean, it's something that it's not out of pocket for you. So I would highly recommend it. I got a lot out of it myself.
Yes.
Yes. And I've had board members that have gone to the National School Boards Association conference and found that really interesting because they get to hear from and talk to people that are board members in other states and find out how it works in other states. And not everybody is set up like California. And it's kind of a learning experience. It kind of broadens their view of what it is to be a board member and found it very interesting.
And I'll tell you, just such great information and resources, I believe, Nathan and Danny, you just got from your colleagues here, and as well as Dick and Mitch here. So know that Nancy does a great job of, I would say, overseeing that, right? When the conference comes up, we'll prepare for that. We have, much like was mentioned, I think, by Mitch, that we've gone as a team, if you will, right? A team meaning superintendent and the board members to those conferences. This is the first year we haven't in a while just because of the conditions, right? It was just a unique situation. But know that that's available. And then also Masters of Governance, I just want to reinforce, you heard Marcus say he's ending his second year and he's just ending that process. It took me close to 2 years to get done. Don't feel like you've got to rush, and if you're interested in it, oh boy, I've got to get it done in a weekend. I mean, it's a process. So we'll work with you on your timelines there. But I just love how we got a lot of input right here. You've got some outstanding resources at your disposal, just so you can feel comfortable with what fits for all of you. And then, Dick, if you don't mind, if I can go backward just real quickly before we move forward, don't want to take all our time here, but I think there's a place where you and Mitch might be able to help us. We've got that unique meeting, and that's the oath of office for our new board members, of course. That happens in open session. Closed session for us traditionally is at 5:00. How is that handled with new board members? Are they able to sit in on closed session before taking the oath of office, given that they are operating under the Brown Act, or is that not the case?
Yes, and board members, once their election is certified, which has already happened, and before they actually take the oath of office, they're under the Brown Act. But you can invite them in to view the closed session before they take the oath of office. That's up to you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, and Dick. I'll tell you, our practice has been not, and that doesn't mean that it was correct, but that's been our practice. I'll tell you, just well before me, that's what we inherited. But I would like to invite them in. So it is okay. I'm hearing you say to have 7 board members in there for a closed session for that one time.
The caveat is they wouldn't vote.
Right.
Okay.
You're inviting them in to see the process and understand what's going on and would be a part of that, but they would actually take their seats as far as a voting member, even though they're under the Brown Act. But they would take their seats as a voting member once they take the oath. Now, the other way to do it, I've seen districts that will swear them in privately at the beginning of the closed session when you open your board meeting, but before you actually go into closed session, and then do it again in open session. So they actually take it twice. The other one is just to do it in more public recognition. So if you wanted them to actually be seated, you could swear them in before you go into closed session. But it's up to you. You can do it either way.
Great. Yeah, really helpful information. I appreciate that. And I certainly, at its minimum, I think it's important that they at least witness what's going on and they're in there. So just give them another opportunity to make a good transition based on learning from, the three great board members we have here and the other two. So thank you for that feedback. Thanks, Mitch. I'm sorry for stopping the momentum here, but appreciate you letting us ask that question there.
Ryan, this next section is you wanted to quickly just provide an overview of the governance handbook. I can put it up real quick if you want, or do you want to have me stop presenting? I mean, I know you want to do a quick overview, and then we also have to talk. I want to talk quickly about the superintendent evaluation process.
Yes, thanks so very much, there, Mitch, and.
You want me to put it up? Is that all right?
Yeah, if you've got it, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Mitch. And I'll be really quick here because I want to make sure you get to that last piece and you can wrap up nicely. I think you and Dick have just done wonderfully well in terms of managing the time here. Want to keep ourselves to that noon ending place. The governance handbook that dates back to Luke Onaveros, my predecessor, just a long time. I'll call him friend of Snowline and just a tremendous educator. I think many of us all of us who know him just really value him. He had the foresight to establish the governance handbook, and it was actually done through California School Boards Association and expertise we brought in from that organization that's already been spoken to very well, Nathan and Daniel, to build a document to guide the governance in a way that's more explicit and more focused around what's most important to the board members and Snowline as a whole. And so then, Mitch, if you're able to scroll down, what you can see here is a document that is a living one. And what it allows for here, and I think the table of contents will serve us well, it defines the unity of purpose, the roles and responsibilities, what a positive team culture around governance is with norms as well as guidelines, and also the necessary protocols and processes and procedures that remind ourselves as a team how we function. And I was just really proud to have been part and witness to it when it was developed originally in 2014. I bring up that date because on a yearly basis now, Daniel and Nathan, we review it and then make adjustments as is appropriate, because the board goals, as you can see under the unity purpose, are in there. And this is where we'll make a connection, because Mitch and Dick are going to do us some great work that Ralph Baker, another one, you heard that name referenced today, another wonderful superintendent in our high desert area who is just like the two of them, consultant we've worked with, had made great progress in taking us through this up until March, and then we put on hold all the adjustments that we were going to make. And you might say, well, gosh, Ryan, I'd like to see the finished document. Well, I think it's actually not a bad outcome, because what we'll be able to do is pick up where we as a team left off and be able to move this cause forward in the ways with the new board that will support what I would say the existing board's efforts to make Snowline a better place in terms of defining how we govern most effectively. So it's a quick flyover. I know it might seem, if I can again steal Kenny's reference in your profession there, Nathan, I know it's a fire hose a bit here, but I will say though that honestly, this document to me is powerful because of who and what's behind it. It's really the heart and soul behind all of you to define how we govern. And that's why you'll see highlights and so forth, because they were put on hold and we didn't want to move forward in the virtual format because we felt this was so important when we needed to get face to face to make sure that we agreed upon everything that we need to agree upon. So with that, again, I'll just turn it over to Christina and Marcus and Kenny. Any quick comments about the governance handbook that we've been operating with and where we've left it for our new, our new curators, if you will, our new board members who will be able to be the next guardians?
Well, I, for one, am excited to revisit that, and I'm happy that our new board members will be able to participate in that practice and provide input for that, for the goals and so forth.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I'd echo that excitement for what's to come of this handbook. I think we're doing some great stuff, and getting the two new members on board, and part of that, it's going to be great.
Perfect. Anything else, Ryan?
Thanks, Kenny, for that thumbs up. And I would just say, I'd end by saying, Mitch, that what I'm really proud of here, too, you can see the document's not more than, I think it's 9 pages or something. And I've always argued that, there's some complex concepts in here. And getting to simplicity is really a complex task. And I think your predecessors have done very well in a very small document, gotten in a fairly simple format, complex governing structures to a place where we can actually remember them and use them effectively. So thanks for letting me, share all of that. And I guess real quickly, Daniel and Nathan, any questions on this piece, knowing that you'll get this and we'll be moving forward with it? Okay, cool. Thanks, Mitch.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to working with you. I think we've set some dates, February and March, Ryan, with regard to talking about what are our core values, what do we stand for, taking those core values, coming up with some belief statements and turning them into some goals, board goals, district goals, and then moving forward together. It's a process that we look forward to working together with you in the spring, or February, March. Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mitch. I'll turn that back over to you. I know you're doing a great job navigating the screen here.
I'm learning as we go along. The last slide, basically, Dick, is we were going to touch just to touch briefly about the superintendent evaluation process.
And we can do that in the last 7 minutes.
There you go. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, we'll stay on. I'll be very, very short.
Yes. Folks,
one of the things that, as we've worked with boards and superintendents all over the county, we were working to try and get them to build trust and find ways to build trust. And our ultimate goal was we'd like to see superintendents have longer tenures in a district, because it takes being there a while to get things done. And when you're turning over superintendents all the time, you don't make a lot of progress with students, and it's really a problem. One of the things that we have started and found that it's probably the most successful thing that we have done to help with board and superintendent longevity is to do an informal evaluation 3 or 4 times a year, where we come in and we sit down with you and the superintendent in closed session, because it's noticed as evaluation, and we have an informal evaluation, and we basically it's kind of open, and there's no forms involved or anything to fill out, or no records made. It's a facilitated discussion on what have you done the last 3 or 4 months? How's it gone the last 3 or 4 months from the superintendent? And then asking the board, what are the irritants? Why are there little irritations between the board and the superintendent that have come up? Did Ryan do something that you wished he hadn't? Did he not do something that you wished he would have? Any little irritations that have happened, let's get them out in the open. Let's clear the air. Misunderstandings, let's get that out. Miscommunications, let's talk about that. Let's fix them. And so nothing builds up. So by the time you get to the formal evaluation at the end of the year, which you always do anyway, hopefully things won't come up in that have been brewing for the whole 12 months over that evaluation period. That we take care of those little irritants and get them out in the open and discuss them and get them resolved like 3 or 4 months at a time during the year with these informal evaluations. It really works, and it really works well. And the districts and boards that we've done it with, they love it. They really love it. They see the value in it, and they've all said it really helps.
And it's also an opportunity, Ryan, for you to sort of share what kinds of progress have you made? What are things you're proud of? What are some next steps? So it really gives you an opportunity to interact with the board and for the board to ask questions and talk about progress being made, the positive things happening, where we're heading. We're making good progress. We need to do a little bit more of this and a little bit less of this. So it's just an opportunity to touch bases so that it's ongoing. It's an ongoing process rather than a summative final process at the very end after the year's been completed.
I would just like to say that I think that Dr. Holman and the board have a very good rapport, and so there are open lines of communication. But I do see value in this, and I'm wondering if there is a template that you have that we can look at, because we are just staying on track with an annual evaluation, which is very comprehensive. It has a 360-degree survey included and so forth. So I'm really pleased with the development of that tool. But I think to have an ongoing conversation throughout the year is a good idea.
Yeah, and having it facilitated really helps too. It just keeps it in the parameters of it, being civil and being appropriate, and so we're happy to provide that.
And Christine, in answer to your question, we do have a format that we use, but that doesn't mean you couldn't use your own format. The important thing is you're having discussion informally throughout the year, and because Ryan and I have talked about the evaluation process, and you do appear to have a process that's working for you. So that doesn't mean throw that out. That means how can we have discussions throughout the year to sort of talk about these things, which makes the evaluation process more rich. It makes it a process that we're learning and growing together, and it keeps us all on the same page. But we do have a format. We could share that with Ryan, and we can share that even with you as we talk about goals and objectives and all those things when we meet together, hopefully in February and March.
Sure.
Thanks. And Mitch, sorry, Christina, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mitch and Dick, I should have probably shared that I did share, what Christine is talking about, our process. And I think, is it fair to say that you were both appreciative of the, of the process that they have put together? It's fairly, extensive and in a real positive way, right? And get some depth of feedback, right?
Yeah, and I think the important things that you've got a process that's working, so continue with the process, but maybe add to some informal discussion along the way, which I said, which coming back to the point, the purpose of evaluation is one of growth, one of learning, one of communication, which is, some of the things we've talked about earlier today. That's the purpose of it. And together you're better. So have those discussions throughout the year. Share the things you're proud of. Keep moving forward together. If there's things that are irritants, as Dick said, then bring those up, but have open, honest discussions along the way so that you continue on with a great working relationship that in the end benefits the purpose that you're there, and that's for your kids and the staff and the community that you work with.
And it builds trust.
Absolutely. Any other comments, Dick or Ryan,
No.
on the eval process?
No, thank you. I appreciate the time on that.
Okay. Well, we did it, Ryan.
12 noon.
We 12 noon. We stayed within the timeline. Any other thoughts or comments you'd like to end with, Ryan, or board members?
I'll go first. Let them go last if that's okay. They'll have better comments. I just have to say, you mentioned something, Mitch, and that was together is, obviously better, right? That's a term that we're very familiar with here. I think together truly is better. And I'm just really proud of all that was accomplished here today. We've got a wonderful board, and we're going to have to say goodbye to Kenny and Dave, and that's bittersweet, right? Because of their outstanding service to this community. On the other side of the coin, we're very hopeful too that that bittersweet experience becomes sweet to the extent that we've got Nathan and Daniel, I think, just very well poised to just pick up with the great work that Kenny and Dave have done for us, not to mention the other three and Christina, Marcus, and Steve. And so I really felt that today. And I just walk away feeling extremely excited about next steps. And that's not to forget you, Mitch, and you, Dick. You did this very well. That's a lot of information. Again, complex, being made simple as best you can. Well done by both of you. We're so appreciative. I'm looking forward to February as well as March. So those are my quick comments there. Thanks for letting me share that. But there might be some from some others here.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here and welcome to our new board members. Looking forward to the oath of office on Tuesday. And thank you to Dr. Hovey and Mr. Brady for facilitating this process.
Our pleasure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you have a great team, and I'd like to compliment Ryan also for the fact your executive cabinet was part of this process. Obviously, they're an important part of your team, so kudos to you and your team. You've got an outstanding team with a great board, 2 new board members coming in that's going to complement what's already been done. You'll be moving forward together. Administrative assistant. I mean, you have a well-rounded team. So thank you all for being part of this process. I know that you have lots on your plate, lots of things to do, and it's very, very tough to pull out 3 hours of your time. But let me just say, from Dick and I perspective, thank you very much for taking the time to be a part of this process. And we really are looking forward to continuing our work together with you in February and March.
Yes.
Yeah, I just got 2 pieces of advice for the new board members. One is, if you look at the people on this call, you've got well over 100 years of educational experience. Use them. You're not out there by yourself. Okay. They've answered questions you've had. They've seen things happen that you think is unique to you. I assure you it probably is not. COVID was, but we got through together. And just the amount of experience they're going to have and be able to answer your questions, use that opportunity. Second, when you get an invitation from Mr. Miller or Mr. Zimmerman or Bob or somebody to go out into the schools or to an opportunity to see the kids in action, do what you can to get there. If you want to know the pulse of what's going on in your school district, watch teachers in action.
Yes.
Watch principals in action, okay? You're going to get paperwork. You're going to get data. You're going to get reports. You're going to get inundated with numbers. That's great. But you have to see what's going on in the district to know what's going on in the district. So go out there, get the sense of what's going on. That'll help you make decisions.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. Powerful advice.
Excellent points. Any comments by others? Okay, so that being said,
I just have a quick question. For the board meeting, dress code stuff, is it like tie and a coat, or just a tie, or just a collar?
And normally it's
severely out of place.
Yeah, Daniel, normally we've been tuxedos for, but COVID-19
I'll be the first one. I'll make sure to go rent one tonight.
Yeah. No, you don't have to. COVID-19 has backed us down, but I will say this, Daniel, we have never explicitly said what our dress code is, but I would argue that it's professional, professional, but there's also a level of comfort that folks seem to have. So to that end, I think you see someone like Kenny, right? He's right above you. So I just think of Kenny. Kenny, you dress that way often and always look good and present yourself very well. Would you agree with that, Kenny?
Well, as a camp director, I don't get an excuse to wear a tie much. So if I have to wear a tie twice a month, I take that opportunity. So otherwise, it's, I agree. It's professional casual. A jacket and a tie is nice. A sweater and a tie is nice. I think that, remember, you're representing district. And I think you're representing yourself when you do that. So dressing to the part.
Okay, so double Windsor, single Windsor. We'll just that part's negotiable. Okay.
Bench cuff.
That's fine. Yeah.
Any
Thanks,
other discussion?
I just wanted to say thanks to everyone. You guys helped with some of my fear of failure, lowering the anxiety a little bit. But that's also a good motivator to be on the stuff. But anyways, thanks a lot, guys.
You'll have a special purpose here, Nathan.
Thank you. Mr. Chacon?
Yeah, just real quick for the new board members, just be on the lookout the day before the board meeting, usually in the afternoon. I will send out the calendar invite for the following day. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of time frame so you're not frantically looking for it. I like to keep it at the top of your inbox. So it'll usually go out, 1, 2 o'clock on the Monday prior to the board meeting. You'll get 2 invites. You'll get a closed session invite and an open session invite. And we will start off our board meeting in open session always. So always start off with the open session invite. And once we get open session going, then we'll transfer over into that closed session. But just be on the lookout Monday afternoons for 2 invites from me. We'll be starting an open session. Thanks, guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you for that. Mr. Miller?
Yes, thank you, President Behringer. Just to our new board members, we've got a special request from Ashley Alvarado, who's part of our team here in Student Learning and Support Services. I don't know if she had the opportunity to reach out, but we do a monthly page in the Mountaineer Progress, and we're kind of focusing on the upcoming year, the new year, new hope and whatnot. And we'd like to highlight both of you as the newest members of our board. So I think we're going to try to rally up a couple pictures, photographs of each of you, and also to ask you to, if you'd be so kind, to write a short paragraph just on who you are and what you aspire to accomplish or what you're excited about in regards to your new board member role. So that would be helpful. We don't have to get our final draft done until Monday afternoon and sent off to the Mountaineer Progress. So if you could send those to me between now and then, that would be great. If we could get them by Monday morning at the latest, that would be very helpful in regards to our layout, so we can make sure everything's dialed in and ready to go.
Who do you want us to send it to?
You can just send it directly to me. My email is Allen with 2 L's, ALLAN _Miller@snowlineschools.com. Thank you.
Okay, any other business? There being none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
And a second?
I'll second.
I'm grateful you're here to provide a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Serious thanks to all. Happy holidays to those we might